Filters, manufactured locally for the Carolinas. This is the Rob Brown Show. Get Rob! Only on
The Fan Upstate.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen, live from Charlotte, North Carolina. It is day number 3 of Atlantic Coast Conference Media Days. Welcome in. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. How do y'all welcome in? Good to be with you on a beautiful Thursday morning. At least it's beautiful here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I assume the same back in the upstate of South Carolina. That, of course, is where we find the gentleman in charge of not just this radio show, but of every radio show that has ever radioed. He, ladies and gentlemen, is the Sultan of Swag, the Professor of Perfection, the Wizard of Wave, the Content Cash Cow, hashtag Dad Kicks, Colonel Grudge, the legend himself, the great one Lonzo, along for the ride as well. What up, Zoe?
It is. It's nice here too. You could see them aliens from miles away if you wanted to.
I want you to know, I jumped in deep last night. Not last night, yesterday afternoon, because I very much cared more about soccer than I cared about the UFO hearings, but I jumped in to those hearings. I read some of the reports, some of the write-ups, some of the articles. I watched a few minutes of the video, and I can say, once again, and with great sincerity, wag the dog.
Probably, but you know, when a retired guy from the government says, well, I can't remember his exact title. He was was in the Army and then in the CIA or something. I can't remember. I don't want to misquote his title, but when he basically says we have bodies, I mean, you know, yeah, definitely. Everybody look at
and
this.
Lonzo, I have $1 billion in the bank. Can't say it. I'm not going to show it to you. I don't have any receipts or statements or anything, but I have it.
So you know, all joking aside, so there's not a small part of you that believes that this is a possibility. You empirically in your brain say no, and that's it. No.
I've acknowledged to you many times, and we'll do one more time again here, that
we get new listeners all the time.
Yeah, that's true. I will acknowledge. Here's the stance I have fallen on, ladies and gentlemen. Do I believe that extraterrestrial life exists? No, but I don't disbelieve it either. I only acknowledge that there is a good possibility. It's there's the concept of the Fermi paradox, which, if you've not read it and are also a giant dork with too much time on your hands, is a wonderful use of your time to go find out about. The concept of extraterrestrial life makes sense, right? You are talking about billions upon billions of galaxies, each containing billions of stars, each of which can host dozens, as many as dozens of planets. The theoretical probability that life has evolved on one of those planets elsewhere is very high, but I would also point out to you, if you think about the entire, this is not where I thought this show was going to start. If you think about the entirety of human existence, okay?
By the way, we talk about real life, and this is being discussed in real life right now. And
for sure.
I am curious, if you weren't doing everything, like loading stuff up, setting things up, setting up interviews, doing all the things that you're doing because you're Rob Brown and you're awesome. If you weren't doing all that, I would ask you during the break to go poll every media member and find out how many people there actually believe in aliens. Because I'm curious about this, because I have a theory that you're like the only guy there who doubts as much as you do.
Let me make clear. I am not saying they do not exist.
Look at the Roar boys. They believe. You know they do. You know they do.
I absolutely, here, I'll tell you what, when they take the headsets off, I'll leave it, ask them. I don't care. I'll ask on air. It doesn't bother me any. Here's the thought.
Watch their eyes when you ask them, because
I certainly will.
It's a trick question, and you know, it's a direct quote because you're in the media, and they're gonna, I mean, you know, you'll be able to tell.
I acknowledge the possibility. I would also, however, tell people to be cautious with belief versus acknowledgement of a possibility, because again, the entirety of human existence, the evolution of our ancestor apes, you're talking about 600,000 years ago, and we've been working our way towards Homo sapien ever since. And now that we're here, we have been capable of flight for how long now? How long have we been able to fly? About 120 years, right?
Hold on, let me get Orville
Yeah.
on the phone.
Get Orville Redenbacher on the line, and let's find out about it. We've been able to fly for about 120 years. We've been able to send radio signals into space for about 80 years now. So well over 500,000 years of human evolution. We have just like now been able to actually do anything involving space. So even if there are aliens on other planets, the thought that they would have the time to create, establish, put the tech out there to be able to get a response of any type, or to get here to study us, is just it's astronomically low. Not impossible, but astronomically low. So when I get a dude, regardless of his credentials, when I get a dude that steps up in front of Congress and goes, "We have spaceships." Cool. Have you seen them? No. Do you have pictures? No. Can you tell us about them? No. We have bodies. Cool. Have you seen them? No. Have you seen pictures? No. Can you tell me about them? No. He literally has just said over and over, "I have friends who have told me that we have these things." Like, that doesn't do anything for me, man. That doesn't do anything. I have friends who say crazy stuff all the time, and I don't ever buy into that, because you don't have anything to support the claim.
So wait. So Rob, I know we have a lot of video capabilities, but it's not so much on every sporting event. So let's say I was at a sporting event and I say, I saw that happen. You have to trust if I'm being honest or not.
Correct, but
you didn't see it.
But the requirement
So
of
could
proof.
you relay the story?
The requirement.
That Lonzo was there and he saw it.
The requirement of proof of the claim depends on the audacity of the claim, right? Like, if you said to me, Rob, I got a cat, right? I'd be like, all right, yes, I'll take your word on that, because that claim doesn't really have any impact or effect on me. I'm not going to be like, no, I need to see the cat. I need you to show me the cat.
Well,
if I wanted to establish that you've got a cat, I would ask for pictures of you with the cat. I would ask for a receipt of wherever you adopted or purchased or rented or whatever the cat
But
from.
you wouldn't. You believe that
Right, because A, you told me, and B, because it's a claim that really doesn't have any impact on my life. The claim that there's an extraterrestrial civilization that has been sending spacecraft here that have crashed, and we have recovered elements of the ships and life, is a claim that has a massive impact on my life and the life of every human on this planet, and therefore the standard of proof that I need in order to believe it becomes much, much higher.
All right.
Then I got a cat.
I got another one. Let's say that I saw a report that Dalvin Cook was in New York to visit the Jets. I don't know that Dalvin Cook is in New York to visit the Jets, but I'm seeing reports that he's there. So I have to trust in the people who say he's there, even though I don't.
That is one thing that you have to be careful about. There is absolutely the reality that sometimes you have to consider sources and their trustworthiness overall, right? Like, I have to look at Adam Schefter and go, okay, there's a couple of things. Number one, a lot of what Shefty has said over the years has turned out to be factually correct, and he's been the guy that's jumped out there and given us information that turned out true. On the other hand, we also had that report not too long ago that Adam Schefter was basically being spoon-fed his news by NFL owners, right? He's asking them, how do you want me to word this? How do you want me to phrase this? How do you want me to put this out there? And so now there is an element of distrust in a guy like Schefter. But if Shefty says it, and then Rappaport says it, and then Wright says it, and then Glazer says it, and all these guys are all reporting the same thing, then you can at that point go, okay, you have multiple verified objective sources all reporting facts that line up with each other. That's fine. Versus one guy going in front of Congress and going, no, dude, we totally got this stuff. Well, where is it? Well, I can't show it to you, tell you about it, or produce any evidence, but It's definitely there. Those are different outcomes.
At the same time, if you were going to drop a bombshell on people that they're no longer alone, what you do is you do it gradually. You do it in a way to where it's not boom, hey, look out there, there's a spaceship. Even though people have said it that they've seen those for a long time, gradually bring it along because the world couldn't handle, here's your proof.
Again,
when you see Independence Day, that could be factual for all we know.
Right. Again, I get that concept,
the guy
but
who plays
are
Data, who's Brent Spiner, could be somewhere in Area 51, examining them bodies right now.
The concept of that is fine, but much like any other conspiracy, my question mark would be, if that is the case, how many people know about this grand conspiracy, and how many of them have the ability to keep their mouth shut that long? Lonzo, you've been in radio long enough. You know that there are secrets that if you tell 6 people, you can't keep it inside of a building for more than a couple of hours, right? And now you're talking about
we've hidden changes in stations being flipped. We've hid that before. But here's one thing we don't have here in radio that they have there. I'm not worried about dying if I let it out. I mean, there's that,
All right, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put the aliens to bed up to and until, let's see, who's the first players we have coming up? We have Emmett Moorhead from Boston College live and on the air at 11:36. After the show is over, I will interview Aiden White of NC State. That's coming up at 12:40. Then coming up at 2 o'clock today, Mark Ryan will be here. We will be sitting down from 2 o'clock at 2 o'clock with Dabo Swinney, head coach of the Clemson Tigers. Then at 2:16, we will be sitting down with Kate Klubnik. And right after that, at 2:32, we'll be sitting down with Will Putnam from Clemson.
Hey, would you do me a favor real quick? Would you let me know what Mark is wearing
I'll be happy to.
For those interviews? You just text me.
I certainly will.
Because I have a theory, and I'm just curious.
Speaking of, and for those of you
no one else needs to know, just me.
For those of you watching on the stream, the man, the myth, the legend, well, both of them, Kate Klubnik and Dabo Swinney, both literally sitting next to me conducting their interviews now. They're on the morning rotation. They'll do their State of the Union address later, and then when that's over, they'll come back and chit-chat with us next. So looking forward to that. I'm sure those interviews will likely run today during Offsides with Mark Ryan, and then Lonzo and I will play them back tomorrow morning on the Rob Brown Show for those of you that are unable to be in front of your speakers for Offsides with Mark Ryan today from 3 to 7. He will be live right here at ACC Media Days. But we've had a tremendous couple of days here. Very much enjoyed it. I want to thank my guy Brandon, who's standing right here in front of me, and the rest of the ACC crew. This has been an incredible event. It has been a blast to be here and be a part of it. And we ain't done yet, kids. We got another couple of hours of the Rob Brown Show live. We are going to play for you today a couple of interviews that we have done, or that I should say we did yesterday. We are going to hear an interview I did yesterday with Tony Muskett, the starting quarterback from the University of Virginia. Then we will play back for you an interview that I did with Pitt defensive back MJ Devonshire. Let me tell you why I love this interview. Again, some of these interviews, look, I acknowledge to you there's probably not a big Pitt Panther audience in the upstate of Greenville, South Carolina, though I could be wrong. However, some of these kids, and this is why, I get asked all the time, like, Rob, when you do these interviews, why don't you do more football questions, right? Like, why aren't you asking about 3-4 and 4-3 and blitzes and schemes and all that? And I'm like, yeah, I do. There are two things that I have to remind you of. Number one, because there are 100 stations here from around the country doing these interviews and having these discussions, we have 8 minutes with these kids, right? I have 8 minutes, and that includes sitting them down, putting on the headset, getting the gear dialed in, getting the level set and all that. I have 8 total minutes. And so the reality is, outside of the basics of new head coaches, new coordinators, like those kind of questions, not a lot of folks in our listening audience really care about the defensive schematics of the Pitt Panthers, right? However, MJ Devonshire is very interesting because Devonshire is an undersized kid, playing DB. He sits in at like 5'8 and 3/4. I mean, if he stands up tall, maybe you give him 5'9". He's an underweight dude, yet he has been one of the most consistent defensive starters out there. And I asked him why, and he gave an incredible answer as far as where he gets his drive and his passion and his dedication from. And I loved it, man. It was just such a great answer. I think sometimes we forget that these kids are kids. Back on Tuesday, right? Back on Tuesday, we talked with Marlo Wax from Syracuse, right? Linebacker from Syracuse. Another good kid. A lot of fun. Really energetic. Great to talk to. And then we talked to Dino Babers, the head coach at Syracuse, right? So Dino ends the interview. For those of you that didn't get a chance to hear it yesterday, it's on our website at thefanupstate.com. You can go there and pull the hour that has that interview. They're all labeled right there on the podcast page for you. Dino sat down with us, and as we ended the interview, in which we had talked a little bit about NIL and the portal and the new era of college football, as he went to take his headset off, I said something about Marlo Wax, and he puts his headset back on and he goes, "Let me tell you something. That kid has an NIL deal with an ice cream company where he gets all the free ice cream he wants, man. How come I don't get that, right? Like, I got to pay for mine." It was just this really funny moment. Well, later on that afternoon, I had a little break between then. I had like an hour break until we interviewed Matt Lee from Miami. And I was walking around. I bumped into Marlo Wax again over in the ballroom. And I was like, "Marlo, how'd you get hooked up on an ice cream NIL, bro?" And he kind of laughed, and I said, "All right, for real question. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream, right?" And this kid ripped into an answer about, well, if it's on this day, I get this. After practice, sometimes I like the cookies and cream, but like if it's a late night, I got a lady over, I'll break out the real good triple chocolate fudge. You know what I mean? Like he had his whole ice cream thing broken down, and on top of that, like he was having the time of his life just talking about flavors of ice cream, his favorite flavors of ice cream, and different sources and scenarios and different brands and this, that, and the other. Like, it was an incredible conversation that sometimes, Lonzo, it's just nice to be reminded that these dudes are dudes, right? Josh Fuga from Virginia Tech. Let me tell you this kid, this young man, Polynesian guy, he's a dude, when he sat down, Lonzo, big Solo Sikoa vibes, right? Like big Solo Sikoa vibes.
Did you check to see if his hand was taped up?
I sure did.
Okay.
But so he walks up to the table, right? And he's got his lei on, and he brings the Virginia Tech lunch pail that they always have on the sidelines that they give to the guys who create turnovers and stuff.
Yeah.
He had that with him, right? So he walks up and he stands in front of the table and he drops this thing on the table and he looks up and he's just sturdy, stocky Polynesian Samoan guy with his lei on, and he reaches across the table and he shakes my hand. I thought he was going to break my damn fingers off with his handshake. And then he pulls out the chair. And he sits down. And you get a vibe on these. You get a read on these guys' vibes when you're having these conversations. Some of them they're happy to be here. They're loving their life. Other guys they're kind of going through the motions. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be one of those super serious dudes, man. So he sits down in the chair, Lonzo, and he takes the headset and he puts it on, and he looks across the table at me and he goes, "Dude, this is just like my gaming headset, bro." And I'm like, "Oh, word? Okay, all right." I was like, "You're a gamer?" "Yeah, what are you playing?" "Man, I'm big on battles on Warzone right now, Call of Duty Warzone. I'm playing a lot of Warzone." And I was like, "Oh, man, I play Warzone. We ought to get together." And he's like, "Dude, let me get that Instagram. Let's go, squat up, right?" And I'm like, yeah. I think we forget sometimes that these dudes are humans, and some of them have some pretty damn incredible stories to tell, which is why I'm not like, "Hey, are you guys going to go 4-3 or 3-4? I'm going to watch the first game and be able to answer that. I do like to know how this guy got into gaming and why, and how it, I asked him, do you feel like it helps you with football at all, or is it a break from football? And we got, it was just a really interesting conversation. And I think we forget these dudes are dudes sometimes, and it's just a nice little reminder.
Well, and I think the other thing is, in not being there, people don't realize that when they pull up, even though they're football players and all that, you see they're kids, man, and you realize these are kids between 18 and 21 years old, and you can't help but think back of the stuff that you were into, and it's cool that you're interested in what they're into. and can relate. That's definitely a cool thing, because I'm guessing there's probably some people in that room who can't.
For sure. Oh, 100%. 100%. And you can tell who they are. But, you know, like I said, I like to give these kids the opportunity to kind of be a little bit more than just a football player. And again, like when we talk later today with Dabo and Kate, I got a little bit more reason to ask them football questions, right? Like I got a little, but at the same time, don't you kind of want to know about Kate Klubnik's experiences from last year to this year, and taking the spot from DJ last year and this year being the guy, etc. So it makes a little more sense to ask those guys the football questions than a guy from, Duke or Virginia. But it's for me personally, it's very cool to connect. Like Fuga hit me with the Instagram DM last night and was like, holler at me this weekend when you get on Warzone. I got a couple of guys to play with. So like this weekend, I'm going to play some Call of Duty with 3 Virginia Tech players for no reason other than I'm probably the first dude at this event that had a conversation with him about more than football, right?
All right, you got to keep in mind, and this is very serious, that you're representing not only the upstate of South Carolina, not only the fan, but
so you're saying I better win?
No, you don't have to win. You just gotta let them
show up.
You gotta let them know that you played before, and it doesn't look like, oh, he's just doing this.
Oh no, I straight up told him, I was like, look, dude, here's the deal. I suck, but I'm hilarious. And he's like, yeah, I can see that. So he already accepted. We're good. I got the squad up. All right, here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. Let's run to a break. When we come back here in just a minute, let's catch up on all of the sports hot topics of the day, because there's a bunch of them. We found out that Aaron Rodgers has got his contract. We didn't really have time to jump into that last night. We'll get to that. This whole Jim Harbaugh thing, Lonzo's sitting over there salivating, ready to talk about the Jim Harbaugh story. We're going to get to that. U.S. women's national team last night end up in a 1-1 draw with the Netherlands, so they take 1 point away from Women's World Cup group stage game numero dos. That sits them on 4 points with a +3 goal differential going into the third game against Portugal, a game that now is not necessarily must win, but it kind of is. We're going to talk about what went right and what went wrong for the American women last night, so stay tuned for that. And then later on in the second hour of the show, you are going to hear from Tony Muskett, the quarterback at the University of Virginia, MJ Devonshire, defensive back and punt return specialist at Pitt, Josh Fuga, veteran defensive lineman from Virginia Tech, and Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers, will all be joining us throughout the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, now is your time if you want to jump on board, if you want to get in on the conversation, if you've got questions you want asked and answers you're looking for, go ahead and hit us up. You can do it on the phone line, 844-326-3663. 844-326-3663. You can text us at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-N, and we will read them on the air. And, of course, you can tweet and or threads us at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show, at Lonzo on Word, and, of course, hit us all up at The Fan Upstate. Let's run to a break. When we come back here in just a minute, just a quick run through of everything going on in the world of sports. That, ladies and gentlemen, is next right here on The Rob Brown Show, right here on The Fan Upstate.
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on The Fan Upstate.
I need to be unmuted, but not you. My stream.
Brian.
3 to 7 on the fan.
And we're coming back.
Upstate.
Okay, on the Rob Brown Show.
Only on the fan. Upstate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we roll on with the Rob Brown Show right here on the Fan Upstate, live in Charlotte, North Carolina for ACC Media Days. Day numero tres taking place right now. Let's jump into some of the biggest news and notes coming out of the world of sports right this very second. We start with last night. The United States of America's women's national soccer team was playing a match in Wellington, New Zealand. They took on the Netherlands in a game that didn't just have importance in terms of points in the group stage of the FIFA Women's World Cup, but had a lot of importance in terms of proving that the Americans are still capable of beating the best in the world. Now, the good news is they did not lose to one of the other best in the world teams. The bad news is they did take a 1-1 draw away from the Netherlands. And it was, I would say, honestly, disappointing. All right, I'm going to say it was disappointing, and there's a few reasons why. First off, the women just could not finish last night. The attacking third of the field, the Americans broke down every time that they got there, and this has kind of been the hallmark of the entire career of Vlatko Andonovski. He puts together really good rosters, right? He puts together rosters that own the middle of the field, but the bad news is we're not just going to out-athlete the other best teams in the world at the point of attack anymore. We can't do it anymore. We are still the number one ranked team in the world, and it's going to be a little while before we fall off, although other teams are catching up in the FIFA World Cup rankings. Now, the Netherlands are ranked number 9 in the world, just slightly behind Brasilia, Canada, Spain, France, England, Sweden, and Germany round out the top 10, Germany being number 2, just behind the Americans. We have traditionally been able to just out-athlete everybody else. We have been able to out-hustle everybody else, out-sprint everybody else, and, when necessary, out-physical everybody else off of the ball. Can't really do that anymore. A lot of your more tenacious defensive players, Samantha Box, these players have moved on, right? Shannon Box, excuse me, not Samantha. Some of these players have moved on. Some of them, Becky Sauerbrunn, unavailable in this cup. We have leaned on, we have started to rely on younger players who don't have that, pardon the expression, they ain't got that dog in them yet, right? And we're working on getting that back. It was okay in the midfield. It was okay. I mean, we maintained possession for the most part, didn't give up too many runs to the Netherlands. The problem is that those runs, when they came at the back line, much like the men's team, the back line just was not prepared. They weren't ready. And I don't know if that's because, hey, it's great that they don't get a lot of practice, right? Like, we don't have a lot of games where teams opposing front four are making consistent runs into the defensive third of the Americans. But the other side, to me, is the bigger problem. We can't finish right now, right? We had multiple opportunities against Vietnam, a team that we scored 3 against, right? And I was on BetMGM tonight with Ryan Horvat earlier this week, and he was like, "Oh, I'm jumping off the American bandwagon as a bettor, right? Like, I hope they win, but I can't put money on it." And I'm like, everybody's panicking, everybody's freaking out because we only scored 3 in a World Cup game. Like, maybe let's just relax a little bit, right? Except for maybe it is an underlying problem. Maybe it is. Last night, there were probably 4 or 5 runs. Now, there was a potential second goal when a really nice through ball to Alex Morgan got picked up in the box. She was 1v1 with the keeper. She beat her, except for Alex Morgan was a half step offsides, and it got called back. That would have been a 2-1 score line and a full 3 points. The problem is that there were multiple other chances. In fact, at one point, Trinity Rodman, who I still have, I'm not pulling any confidence out of her, but Trinity Rodman, who I think is set up to be a very good player, had an attack down the left-hand side where she beat her defender, had a 1v1 with the goalie. It was a real tough angle. It would have been a wonderful shot, but she missed the net entirely. And it's just a panic. We had probably 5 or 6 shots, and granted, it is tough to hit a soccer ball from 4 or 5 yards on top of the box. It's tough to hit a ball on the right angle, the right path, and the right velocity to get it through a group of players and into the net. But you've got to put it at least close, and instead we had 4 or 5 balls that got skied up over the goal like they got hit with the world's biggest pitching wedge. That can't happen. There were just too many mistakes in the attacking third that the women just they looked lost. They didn't look like the team that we are used to them being, and unfortunately that's just not good enough. So we got Portugal in game number 3 coming up next week, and now those 3 points become vital. Had the Americans gotten the 3 points last night, all they would have needed was a Vietnam win or draw today, and we would have no more into the knockout round. We could have rested up the starters in game 3, not worried about it now, and play for our lives. We got to go play for our lives. You have to beat Portugal outright. You do not want to leave it into the hands of the Netherlands and Vietnam in game number 3, because I promise you, you're not going to get an outcome there that's favorable if you take away 1 point from Portugal and end with 5. You'll likely still go in, but you'll go in as the second team, which means you've got the shorter rest, you've got the longer travel, etc., etc. It just wasn't good enough, guys. It just wasn't. We'll come back around to that later on in the show. We did also find out last night that the Los Angeles Angels have decided that they will not trade the greatest baseball player of all time in Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani has been considered on the trade market by many of us for a while now. The Angels came out last night and started telling insiders that they will not be trading the two-way superstar off the market. Instead, and this was a little bit surprising, this did get me a little bit, the Angels instead decided to become not just buyers, but impact buyers. They went to the White Sox and they picked up right-hander Lucas Giolito and right-handed reliever Ronaldo Lopez from the White Sox. They sent in return catcher Edgar Quero and left-hander Kai Busch, 2 of their top prospects, for 2 guys that can make a difference immediately. The Angels needed help in both the rotation and out of the pen. Why? The Angels are only 4 games back of the final wild card spot in the American League right now. They've got a doubleheader slated today against the Tigers. Ohtani starts game number 1. The Angels want to make a push. Now, this is very interesting, keep in mind, because at the end of this season, Shohei Ohtani is an unrestricted free agent. He can go wherever he wants to go, and the assumption is he's going to be getting a contract somewhere in the neighborhood of an overall $600 million to play baseball wherever he's going to be playing baseball next. And look, the odds, I'm not going to say it's impossible the Angels bring Shohei Ohtani back, but the odds the Angels bring Shohei Ohtani back are very, very low. And I really think there's only one thing that they can do to convince the Shohei to make his return to LA and not be in Dodger blue when he does it, and that's win this year. And I'm not talking about win a playoff game. I'm talking about win 2 playoff series. Make it to at least the ALCS and prove that they have pointed this franchise in the right direction, because right now nobody believes they have. No one believes that they have. So this is interesting. Now the question mark is going to be, did they do this so that they got another 60 games of revenue because Shohei Ohtani sells tickets and jerseys? Or did they do this because they are genuinely going to try to finally field a competitor? And if they do that, I'm still going to be furious with the Angels, because why the hell haven't you been doing that around Mike Trout for the last 10 years? But whatever, put that aside. Shohei Ohtani not going to be moved by the Angels before the trade deadline, according to insiders last night. The Halos did get Lucas Giolito from the White Sox. That is an interesting move as well. Let's go to college football for just a minute. The Big 12's presidents and chancellors, according to an ESPN report, have approved unanimously to accept Colorado as a new member last night. Now, this is another really interesting story, Lonzo, because they've agreed unanimously to accept Colorado as the newest member. Colorado has not left the Pac-12 or requested to become a member of the Big 12 yet. They have not formally applied for Big 12 membership, but there are some college football insiders who are saying right now that one of the reasons Colorado did not do that is they did not want to leave the Pac-12 or even let the the Pac-12 think that they were leaving, only to apply for membership to the Big 12 and have the Big 12 tell them no and get left either very awkwardly staying in the Pac-12 or being left out in the cold if they left the Pac-12 and then the Big 12 said no.
You know what this is? It's that thing, that advice. It's really good advice where don't leave the job you're in until you have another job. That's all this is.
Oh, it 100% for sure is. The problem is that you've got not. I mean, yes, let's start with that. But you've now got the issue that this is a nasty split from the Pac-12, and there are millions of dollars at play that they will have to deal with the Pac-12 and the Big 12 at the same time. You don't leave a job that you're at, but this is kind of one of those spots where if the job you're at finds out that you're taking interviews with other companies, it could get problematic around the office, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, this whole thing's interesting, but the fact that they had these talks last night, the fact that they had these meetings last night, the fact that they went through this whole discussion last night and approved accepting Colorado leads me to believe Colorado is going to move back, and why wouldn't they, right? Like we've said this how many times, at the end of the day, like it, hate it, or don't, the Big 12 is more stable than the Pac-12 right now. And I think if you're a college football program, Lonzo, conference stability is likely one of like the top two issues that you are considering as a program right now. The Pac-12 is just more stable the Big 12 is just more stable than the Pac-12 right now. It is what it is.
How many times have we said, is the Pac-12 enjoyable? So I think it comes down to how much longer does the Pac-12 last?
USC's gone, UCLA's gone. It looks as if Colorado is gone. If those three are gone, I would not be shocked to see a couple of the other teams out there decide, you know what, without those teams, like who is going to pay us? Who is going to give us TV rights deals that are anywhere close to the SEC or the Big Ten? I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not going to say this is the death rattle of the Pac-12, but I'm also not going to say that because this is a real bad look. New York Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers has signed a reworked contract in which he voluntarily reduced his salary by about $35 million over the next 2 seasons, according to ESPN. A 2-year, $75 million contract that is fully guaranteed, according to sources. He was due to make close to $110 million in guarantees on his previous contract. This is a massive pay cut for Aaron Rodgers. In fact, an unusually large pay cut for a quarterback to take. The reports are that the agreement has been in place for weeks. It has just been awaiting Rodgers to sit down and sign it. Rodgers confirmed the reworked contract in a post-practice media session yesterday. Didn't want to get too deep into the details at the time. This was before the contract itself dropped yesterday afternoon. Rodgers said, quote, "The team gave up significant pieces. I'm aware of that. Anything could happen with my body or the success we have this year, but I'm having a blast, so I really don't see this as a 1-year and done thing." End quote. Rodgers is catching a $35 million roster bonus in 4 days, plus $1.8 million in salary. In 2024, his salary is slated to go up to $38.2 million. The contract technically runs through 27 because it includes 2 option years to minimize the capped impact of the $35 million roster bonus. So it's very interesting, Lonzo, because Aaron Rodgers could have got a lot more money out of the New York Jets, and he decided to accept $35 million-ish, less than the Jets initially looked like they were going to pay.
Does this
Are we
make-
applauding Aaron Rodgers for this?
Oh, we are, especially with the visitor that he has in town. I mean,
It's one of them aliens?
yeah, it could be. Dalvin Cook sometimes when he runs is like otherworldly.
Good
so
call.
The fact that he's in town and that Aaron's willing to make room, money room for other people means this is looking more and more like a Tom Brady-esque situation. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers is able to do what Tom Brady did.
You're not wrong, Lonzo.
Bringing in all his guys, bringing in some other guys who he likes, and we'll see how they play together.
Lonzo might have hit the nail on the head there. Dalvin Cook currently in the Big Apple talking to the Jets, who now suddenly, shockingly, have an extra $35 million to play around with. Yeah, that's interesting. All right, let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute, a couple more stories that we will knock out. And then, coming up in the next hour of the show, we will play you some of the interviews that we had yesterday. We are going to have an interview with Tony Muskett. He is the starting quarterback for the Virginia Cavaliers this year. We will have an interview with Don Munson, the voice of the Tigers, MJ Devonshire from Pitt, and my new gaming buddy, Josh Fuga of Virginia Tech. That's all coming up on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market and the Fan Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders here.
That's Chuck Sanders.
Every time I hear Uptown Charlotte, I think of a certain song.
Cause Uptown Charlotte gonna bring it to you. Uptown Charlotte gonna bring it to you. You've got to be joking me.
I dare you to jump up and kiss yourself because you're so pretty. It is a lyric. and then I lost you. He jumped up to kiss himself because he's so pretty, and that's what happened.
Alright, you might have to flip us, Lonzo, because my computer waiting. I don't know.
Yeah, you did. You got it.
Cool.
I was going to flip. I could do the flip.
The flip.
Your screen froze as you're grabbing your nose.
Perfect.
It was wild. It's done now, but it's a true sign that it's starting to fill up more there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How much does the hardwire split if you were to plug it into like a hub?
How much does the hardwire?
All right, where the Comrex is plugged into the hardwire. If we had a hub there that you plug in and it plugs several wires out there.
I mean, it would certainly be long enough, TBH, but
Oh, they can make you Cat 5 or whatever you need.
Yeah, no, I've got all the Cat 5 cables. I just don't have a split. What do they call it, splitter?
Yeah, I'm calling it a hub because it sounds more manly. Really, I just don't know what the technical term for it is.
I do want to say it's a splitter.
I'm doing.
Next time I see engineering, I will ask them.
It's my side gig. Here's things I need to some interesting.
Life in plastic is fantastic. Somebody was bumping that in their
If
car.
I was getting them on, I would wait.
I did bring a scooter to the conference today.
Are you going to be able to carry the equipment with that though?
No, I'm gonna scooter back to the hotel. I'm gonna grab the car. I'm gonna bring the car back here, put it down in the lobby, then come back up and get everything.
So you pay less for parking.
No, I mean the parking is already paid for the day. I just
Okay.
don't want to because the hotel I'm staying in is 2.5 blocks from here. And while I
I know you talked
am not super lazy,
Keep in mind
big
you're
box-
telling
yeah,
you're telling the paparazzi now where you're at. So
I don't care.
because we're live on
It's just gonna be
the stream.
one weirdo with a cell phone cam.
I had a picture of you trying to guide the scooter while carrying that. Oh, that box has wheels though. You could scooter that thing behind you.
How you doing, lady? Good. Working. I'm ready to go to bed. Is that bad?
I know. It was just a struggle.
Our friend, official photographer of the Rob Brown Show, Miss Susan, is here with us now.
Awesome.
We appreciate it.
You have 30 seconds, man.
Cade was sitting there doing an interview a minute ago. You're right.
I missed it.
No, not me,
it was
yeah.
wrong. Okay.
But you were right.
Right?
You were right.
Is it not?
Yeah.
I mean, dead on.
You were right. Hilarious.
I love it.
Brindisi.
Yeah.
From the Ingles Market Studio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
I know. I got 3 looks when I did that.
Which is why I put it away for the week.
A producer to the right, 2 hosts to the left, all looked over at me. All right, wrapping up the first hour of the Rob Brown Show. We're going to do a bunch of interviews coming up in the next interviews that were recorded yesterday. In the last hour of the show, we will have 1 live interview, and then Dabo and Cade will join me and Mark Ryan coming up after the show today. That interview, I'm sure, will run during offsides, and then we will replay it for you on tomorrow's edition of the Rob Brown Show. So make sure you keep the radio dial locked in. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 or 2 more stories before we get out of here for the break. This one's very interesting as the trade deadline is nearly upon us. The LA Dodgers have acquired shortstop Ahmed Rosario in a trade yesterday that sent right-hander Noah Syndergaard to the Cleveland Guardians. Rosario, a 27-year-old, joins the Dodgers team with a .629 OPS at shortstop. It's the 5th worst in baseball, and that just a day ago traded for super utility man Enrique Hernandez, who had been the Red Sox shortstop up until now. So the Dodgers get a little middle infield depth. Syndergaard is now 30 years old. He will join the Guardians in Chicago for the opener of a 4-gamer today, though we do not know when he will make his debut. Syndergaard, over a dozen starts this year, racked up a 7.16 ERA, and the Dodgers no longer saw a long-term place for him inside of what is a rotation that needs help. He was a big part of the reason why it needed help, and he is no longer a part of it. So Noah Syndergaard headed to Cleveland in return for Dawson Rosario, and the Dodgers just got a little bit better, and they got a little bit better at a point in time where, Lonzo, here it is it time to panic over the Atlanta Braves, ladies and gentlemen? They dropped the 2nd against the Boston Red Sox yesterday, 5-3, which is too bad, predominantly because Spencer Strider threw the ball really, really well. 6.1 innings pitched, 6 hits surrendered, 3 runs, 2 of them earned, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts, and 2 dingers surrendered yesterday. Spencer Strider had actually earned the Bravos a lead late in that game. Atlanta, courtesy of a 3-run shot off the bat of Ozzie Albies, found themselves up 3-0 in the top of the 6th. 1 run was surrendered by Spencer Strider early in the 6th. He got yanked. Then the Braves gave up 3 more in the 7th, 1 more in the 8th, and were unable to plate anything else the rest of the night. So that is back-to-back L's against the Bo Sox for the Atlanta Braves. They did take 2 out of 3 against the Brewers, but they dropped 2 out of 3 against the Diamondbacks. They dropped 2 out of 3 against the White Sox after the All-Star break was over. So the break not treating Atlanta well. They are playing sub 500 ball since the break ended. Now, I told you there was going to be a little bit of a cold streak for Atlanta. When you are an offensively minded team, more often than not, the All-Star break is bad for you. The All-Star break is bad because the bats cool off. It's about timing. It's about precision. It's about chemistry within the lineup. And if just 1 or 2 guys go sour with the bats, which inevitably happens when guys get 4 days to leave the team, go home, be with wives, be with kids, be with girlfriends, be with whatever. When you take that long away from baseball, you lose that chemistry. It can take a few minutes to get it back. So I'm not ready to push the panic button yet, but I'm a little apprehensive. I'm a little nervous. We'll talk more baseball later on when we come back here in just a minute. We will hear from a number of players in the voice of the Clemson Tigers, Don Munson, all in the next hour of the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
That's my thing. Good morning.
So, we're back on the stream. I'll pull the video down if I can. There we go. All right, we'll address it. 10-4. Our numero dos to the Rob Brown Show goes now, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. This is the Fan Upstate. Howdy, y'all. Welcome in. Great to have you. I hope all is very well as we are now well into day number 3 of ACC Media Days on today's docket. Starting, actually, the door's closing. Yes, they are. Look at that. Right over my shoulder there. Right back there in that room, for those of you watching on the stream, that's where the state of the school addresses are taking place. And Mack Brown, the head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, is set to give his address. Then at 11 o'clock, Dabo Swinney will go live right there in that room right behind me. Wake Forest Dave Clawson will take over at 12:45. At 1:30, Jeff Hapley of Boston College. And at 2:30, Dave Doran from NC State are your head coaches and schools represented today on the show. Now, here in just a second from now, we are going to play back for you an interview that we did. We'll lead off with Tony Muskett here in just a minute. Tony Muskett, of course, the starting quarterback for the Virginia Cavaliers. But before we get there, a college football conversation that Lonzo and I were having off the air during that last break that I find very interesting. And Lonzo said, we now have another hint that Ryan Day knows he is in trouble at the Ohio State University, despite the fact that the Ohio State University played in a college football semifinal this year. That's not good enough, ladies and gentlemen. And Ryan Day knows he's in trouble per the great one, because what's happening, Lonzo? Damn kicker. You know.
We have to be a transfer. Outstanding left quarterback. Really? He played him last year. He lost him. We played him our first year. I'm coaching him. We always schedule him. We played Dutch Bowl. He just go out there. We're for it.
All right, this is interesting, because it is that spot where logical thought, common sense is asked to take a back seat to pride. And some of the worst outcomes in the life of not only Rob Brown, but all human beings everywhere come when pride is placed ahead of common sense and logic, ladies and gentlemen. And this is one of those times, because the logical side of this is we have very frequently seen teams that eat a loss earlier in the season, able to bounce back, perform, get some swag points, and then climb their way back into a playoff spot or a New Year's Six bowl game or whatever. The logic says, yeah, that is the correct. Of course, that's the correct decision, right? You lose a 1-point nail biter of a game to your in-state rival, in this case your cross-state rival, You lose to a rival. You want the time to be able to build yourself back up, Buttercup, and get yourself in to the college football playoffs. And the best way to do that is to get that L early in the season and give yourself some swag points on the way out. That is the logical thing. That's the common sense thing. That is the best thing to do, but pride, pageantry, college tradition says rivalry week is rivalry week. You end your season with your rival because you're going to win 100 out of 100 times. Just ask me. We're never going to lose to that other team. Rivalry week is rivalry week because rivalry games in college football are the best, and rivalry games are wildly entertaining, especially for people that are you when they get to watch your team and your rival go bang them up. So Ryan Day has said one of those things, Lonzo, that makes perfect sense, that checks out, as the kids say. It makes perfect sense, and it checks out, and you don't say it out loud.
Yeah, you don't say it because it makes it look like you don't think you can beat your rival. And it takes away from the importance of the rivalry game because you're saying you're more interested in winning the championship, which, by the way, you should be. But you still shouldn't say it. You should not. You should absolutely not say that. And this could change college football as we know it. And here's the thing. I mean, everyone thinks that their rivalry with South Carolina Clemson thinks that's the greatest rivalry.
Sure.
Everyone in every state thinks that. But Ohio State and Michigan is one of the, if not the biggest rivalry in all of college football. If that is changed, it will set a precedent that it's okay to change it, and a lot of other teams will do that. And is rivalry just about the fans? No. It's a recruiting tool. You're bringing these kids to school who lived in a state going, hey, man, you always wanted to beat that team. You come here, you get a shot to play them every year you're here and prove that this is the best in the state or whatever for the rivalry.
Seems like...
But instead, you come here, the third game of the season, we're going to play them. Where's the build-up? Where's the...
Oh, listen, the game's better. 100% the game's better. Hell, last year, right? We get down to the end of the year last year, and it's like, loser of this is probably out, right? If Clemson had beat South Carolina, the loser of that game would not have been in the playoffs last year. Ohio State would not have had a chance to line up against Georgia and miss the worst kick in the history of college football, potentially. I don't think that they would have been there had Clemson beat Carolina. So, yes, the stakes are very high in a rivalry game, but let's call a spade here. The stakes are high because of the prize of going to the playoffs, right? Like, I suspect if I go to anybody who's not an Ohio State or a Michigan fan and I go, hey, what's the name of the trophy that's handed to the winner of that rivalry game? Most people aren't going to know. Hell, most people are going to know if there is a trophy given out to the winner of the Ohio State versus Michigan game. That's not what the stakes are. The stakes aren't pride, right? When Florida State get together, when Clemson, South Carolina get together, the stakes, if either team is in there, the stakes aren't, we want that Palmetto trophy. I mean, you do. Of course you do. But the stakes last year were so high because if South Carolina figured it out and got the win, they were bumping Clemson out of the playoff. And they did. Clemson was not there because of South Carolina. That was the stakes. If South Carolina-Clemson had taken place earlier in the season, not only would Clemson likely have won that game because it took a little while for the Gamecocks to get rolling, but the stakes wouldn't have been that high. And the question mark is, let me rephrase that. The statement should be, all of us as fans want our rivalry games to take place at the end of the season. It is the game that matters most on the schedule. I promise you, every college football coach at every college in America would be really happy if you move their rivalry game to week 4.
All right, I'm going to ask you, I think you're completely wrong. You said every college fan in America would want their rivalry game moved to week 4?
Oh, I said every college coach.
Oh, coach.
In America would want their rivalry game moved to week 4.
I phased there for a second. It's one of them things where I was listening to the radio and I thought I heard something, so I believed it. I'm going to ask you to do something I rarely ask you to do. Please ask Dabo this question.
Okay.
because I am curious about his answer.
So here's the thing. I got to be gentle in how I say this, Lonzo. You and I both know what his answer will be.
Doesn't matter. I ask him the question because there's a chance that it may be something different. He may have the same attitude that Ryan Day does. I doubt it. I doubt it. But he could.
Here's the other thing,
He's
though.
went against trends before in answering questions. I wonder if anybody else there will ask that question.
Honestly, I'm happy to ask the question. I'm just telling you, I already know what the answer's going to be. The answer's going to be no. We love the rivalry game. We want the rivalry game where it is. We want that game to matter, and it can't matter more than being at the end. But I also look and I would go, yeah, but also, if that game was week 4 last year, you guys are in the playoffs, right? Like, Clemson's in the playoffs if they play that game in week 4 last year.
I think there are a lot of people who are unwilling to ask hard questions, and I think this is a hard question. And
I'm happy to ask it.
I think you should ask it. If you want to, you can say that I asked you to ask it.
Happy to ask
While
it.
the person next to you cringes while you ask the question. I'm willing to take, because if I were there, I would ask that question because I'm curious.
Couple of texts that have come in on this, Lonzo. Texter number 1 says the Ohio team would have won if they hadn't lost their star wide receiver. I actually don't disagree with that.
Yeah, that's it was they were rolling until that happened.
Texter said when your biggest rival is also your conference opponent, you can't deny that rivalry game is H-U-G-E, huge. Yeah! They didn't say that. I added the last part for emphasis.
And you just wanted to be stared at. I mean, it's hard to not, it really is.
And then we got a texter. Texter, I can't read your text about Dabo Swinney. Let's just say, Lonzo, it's from a Gamecock. All right? And I can't read it. It is not FCC compliant.
Or it's someone pretending to be.
I mean, maybe.
It's
They're trying to get Dabo fired up.
it's the text line. It's what they it's what they do.
That's
It's
true.
what they do. I had a
You're not
conversation with one of our new producers, Odie, over on the Upstate Pulse last weekend. He's like, I can't read any of these. He's Irish. I'm not even going to attempt it. But he's like, people actually send us stuff. It's like, yeah, the text line is brutal. It absolutely is.
Text line is brutal.
Because the texters believe they have anonymity and they don't. We've said this many times. We see your phone number.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as brutal as you want to be, we see your phone number. Keep that in mind.
All right. You know what? I think we got time here. We have time to play this interview here, Lonzo, or should we just take a break and play it in the next one? You tell me. All right. Yesterday, we got the texter says, you read my text, damn it. Yeah, no, I can't do that. And you know it, but it's I like the effort. Yesterday, we got the opportunity to sit down with Tony Muskett. Tony Muskett is going to be the starting quarterback for the Virginia Cavaliers. Tony Muskett last year was the starting quarterback for Old Dominion University, a team that Virginia last year, and now he is transferred over and will be the QB1 for Virginia. It was an interesting conversation. We got the chance to have it yesterday. We play it for you today. This is starting quarterback for the Virginia Cavaliers. This is Tony Muskett.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the Rob Brown Show goes on. We are joined now by the starting quarterback for the Virginia Cavaliers, Tony Muskett, here on the show. What's up, big fella? How you doing?
What's going on? How you doing? I'm doing well.
Good. How's media day treating you so far? What a circus on.
I know it's a little bit different than the CAA media day last year, but no, I'm loving it. Everybody here is great. It's been a fun conversation. So,
which gamers you been in front of recently?
Probably by a little bit.
Yeah. What's the view right now from the way folks are phrasing questions to you? You guys obviously a bit of a disappointing year in conference last year, but it was also a big growth year for Tony Elliott. Have you guys kind of taken last year, learned some lessons, built some confidence going forward?
So I wasn't part of the team last year, but obviously when you come with a first-year head coach, there's a little bit of a mentality shift because just from a scheme standpoint, we were running a different scheme with Coach Mendenhall, and then Coach Elliott came in, he's more a pro-style guy. And so I think, from what I can tell from what guys are saying and stuff, it's just been a little bit of, growing pains, but I think there's been huge strides recently, from the beginning of spring ball until now in terms of guys buying in this offense, this defensive scheme, and just this program in general. And I think we've seen the growth. We had an amazing spring, in my opinion, both offensively and defensively. And then I think moving into the summer now, guys are really forming confidence in the brotherhood to the point where we can trust each other and rely on each other. And then I can't wait to get to camp to see how that continues to grow and flourish and to see the team we become, you know?
Talk to me a little bit about Tony. We're down in Greenville, South Carolina, right up the road from Clemson. We followed his career during his time as the OC there when he got hired at Virginia. Love him as a person. Think he was a phenomenal coordinator. Now, you were closer than anybody to him as a head coach. Can you talk to me a little bit about your experiences with Tony Elliott so far?
Yeah, so when I was entered the portal, I had a couple official visits set up and came down.
Yes, that wide receiver behind the rings. It's a Genesis play. Josh Sykes, he's got this new freshman to look like full.
I think you got a great play caller in Tony Elliott. It looks like the recruiting's going well. So what was it aside from coach that made you pick Virginia to decide to transfer into?
Yeah, I think they're on the rise, and that truly does come from my belief in Coach Elliott. He was at Clemson, he was at the highest level, and he's won at the highest level. And the morals and principles that he's trying to instill in us as a team, as a program, it's the things that the top programs in the country do. So, like I said, with him leading us, and then also the new facility we're getting, high level recruits and the level of play continues to elevate. I think Virginia's going to be on the rise, not just this year, but also years to come.
It's an interesting time for that because, and we're talking with Tony Muskett, starting quarterback for the Cavaliers of Virginia this year. It's an interesting time for that because, and we've talked about this entire media day, the ACC, I think, as a whole is on the rise. And while that kind of can present a challenge for any one individual season, I do think it can be good for every team in the conference because as your competition gets better, it forces you to get better with it. So looking down y'all's schedule this year with the NC States, North Carolina, Miami, Georgia Tech, Louisville, all teams projected to increase their win total this year. What's the attitude of this team? Is it hey, we can be right in the mix of an ever-improving conference?
Yeah, I think we love it. I think if you're a true competitor, you want to compete at the highest level. And so being in one of the best conferences in the country, that's what we look forward to. Like you said, there's a ton of talent in the conference this year, and I think that just means that our focus week to week has to be that much more dialed in. So you can't, go play UNC one week and the next week think you have a week off or something like that. You have to be locked in every single week of the year. And I think the truth is that's just going to make us a better team come championship season because if you're locked in for that many weeks in a row, that means you're getting better. And so come, late November when it comes to championship time, we want to be the best we could possibly be. And I think playing a harder schedule and doing those things is going to get that done.
Talk to me a little bit about your responsibility personally as a quarterback, taking over for a program that's got a lot of pride behind it. It's got a coach with high aspirations in Tony Elliott. And here you come in your first year to take over this role in what is the most high-pressure position in all of football. You personally, what are you looking forward to accomplishing? What kind of goals are you setting for yourself and this program as a first-year starter at Virginia?
Yeah, first and utmost, I think the number one goal is to come out with wins. That's what I want to do. Like I said, I'm from Virginia, and so making UVA known as a football program across the country and mentioned with the best, that's what I want to do. It means a lot to me, and I have a ton of pride in the V saber that we wear and what University of Virginia means. And so first and foremost, I want to come with wins. More than that, I want to build relationships. I want to make this program something that is remembered for a long time, not just because of the wins, but also because of how we go about our daily business, how we do things the right way, and then also how we get it done on the field. So we're just continue to be better, make my teammates better, make this program better, and make us a program known nationally. That's what I want to do.
I love it. Tony Muskett is the starting quarterback this year for the Virginia Cavaliers. You guys open September 2nd, SEC Roadie at Tennessee. That's a big one for the boys.
Oh, yeah, can't wait for that. I mean, we all know Tennessee is super talented. Obviously, they were number one for a good portion of the season last year. So they have the guys, they have the coaching, and they're super disciplined. But the truth is, I think that's a good thing for us opening with them, because when you play a team like that in preparation, you know you have to be focused and locked in, because if you come out week 1 against Tennessee and you're not focused, they're going to put it on you. So I think our guys know that, and they understand that we have to come ready to work and ready to win. And I think we've been doing that so far.
Tony, good luck this year, buddy. Thanks for chatting with us. Phenomenal stuff. We'll see you out there, bud.
Yes, sir. Thank you very
got
much.
it. Thank you very much. That is Tony.
So there you go. That is Tony Muskett. Tony Muskett, the starting quarterback for the Virginia Cavaliers, joined us yesterday at the conclusion of the Rob Brown Show. Let's take a break. When we come back here in just a minute from right now, I got a couple more for you, including MJ Devonshire, defensive back from Pittsburgh, a dude that I just enjoyed talking to. This is a guy that kind of has that story of having been undersized, having been told he was not going to be able to be a D1 player. He has been the Pitt Panthers' most consistent defensive playmaker for a couple of years, and looking for one more. You'll hear from him, and of course you will hear from Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tigers, an interview we did with him yesterday as well. Lock it in, don't go anywhere. Rob Alonzo and you, it's the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
Gables.
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Weather Center, here's the Carolinas' most trusted forecast on The Fan.
right, stream, we're back. Thanks for hanging out. We'll do that Devonshire interview here. The Rob Brown Show is now 9 to noon, and would you look at that, it's just about 10:30 a.m. So the Rob Brown Show is in your ear holes, ladies and gentlemen, right here on the Fan Upstate. We've been running some interviews for you every day that we acquired after the previous day's show is over, and we continue here in this hour of the show. This one I very much enjoyed. This is Pitt Panther defensive back MJ Devonshire, and I enjoyed this kid's story, getting to know him, getting to know his story. I very much liked it. This is a kid that was told he was undersized, that he was not a D1 caliber player, and all he's done is start every single Pitt Panther game in his 3-year career. He is a senior this year. He has been not only a captain and senior leader on the defense, he has also been an excellent punt returner for the Pitt Panthers as well. And he's got a very good story. We talked to him a little bit about Pat Narduzzi's defense, a defense that is going to have to hold it down if Pitt is going to make a return to the top of the ACC table. This is Pitt Panther defensive back, MJ Devonshire.
Jay Devonshire here on the broadcast. How you feeling, big fella?
Great. I'm having fun today.
I love it, man. Media Day is such a circus, dude.
Yeah.
But you get picked to represent your team. That's a pick from coaches and the program itself, man. How's it feel to be asked to come here and represent Pitt in front of the eyes of the nation, man?
Great, man. Last year I remember being around Savasi and he was preparing for this experience, and just watching him through the media and like watching him on TV, it was like, man, I want to be able to do that one day. And you know, you just put in the work, keep your head down, work, and hopefully one day you get to do this, and I'm getting to experience it, and I'm having so much fun. I love it.
Dude, let me tell you something I love that just happened. You were just talking about that and saying, I want to do that. I want to be that guy that gets to go represent the school. I was reading an article about you on a Pittsburgh website earlier that was titled MJ Devonshire Determined to Become a Bigger, Better Version of Himself. And it's written by a guy named Carl Upwig, who was talking about your drive and your passion and your dedication to be a better player and a better person on the field. Talk to me a little bit about that mentality and the mindset, why it's so important to you.
Just being from Island Cooper, you know, Darrell and Ty being corners, they're Hall of Famers, and you want to be the next one of those guys. And in order to do that, you can't think about being a Hall of Famer, which might not come to 50 years old. You got to worry about where you are. And I'm really learning actually being where your feet are, and that's just worrying about today. And today I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday. And I'm also not worrying about tomorrow. You know, because when tomorrow comes, then I'll be better than what I am today. So just stacking days and getting better at on and off the field things to be a better person and a better football player every day.
Honorable mention all ACC at corner last year, 34 tackles, 8 pass breakups, and 3 interceptions. And look, we've talked about Pitt. One of my co-hosts, Ryan Horvath, said he's picking you guys not just over on a win total, but like a couple of big-time upsets. I mean, people are believing in this team, and honestly, I think it's because of y'all's defense. How much pride does Coach Narduzzi take in building this defense, and do you guys take in being a part of what a lot of people think is probably the most underappreciated defensive unit in the conference?
Yeah, Coach Deuce is a defensive guy. We knew that coming in. Everybody being recruited by Coach Deuce was told this is a defensive guy. And being a defensive back, he's always in our ear telling us what we need to do, what we can do better, what we need to keep doing. And just having pride knowing that we have so many guys going to the league that offer the defense and trying to be the next one. You know, those guys come back and they help us and they teach us so much that it's like, you know, I don't want to be the guy that was a part of the fall off of this defense. So it's just the pride of being the next one.
It's interesting because you guys on the offensive side of the ball have a pretty consistent amount of returners coming back. You do have to flip some positions defensively. You as a veteran leader of this team, what is your mindset as far as coming in, being that leader, helping the young guys adjust, but also understanding the weight that's on this defense to again, kind of carry that team while the offense rebuilds its chemistry?
It's just like being a part of it, you know, in practice, you get to go against them guys in that experience. So where we may lack it, they have it, and they've got those game reps. So you get real life game reps. You don't get guys who are out there trying to do too much in practice and worry about the wrong things. They're giving you realistic looks, whether it's one-on-ones, team period, and you're going against the best on best at all times, and it just creates a good environment for the team. And, you know, the better you are in practice, you want practice to be harder than the game. If practice can be harder than the game, you're in good shape.
MJ Devonshire, defensive back, punt return specialist for the Pitt Panthers, joining us here on the show. So let's flash back to last year. You guys opened with a 38-31 win over West Virginia, and then you get a game against the Volunteers. Tennessee still had Hendon Hooker in that game. An OT one-touchdown L that you guys hung all the way in. Did you kind of get a feeling at that point that this team had the chance to be something special, not just last year, but as a program moving forward?
Yeah, we made our mark. We were able to put ourselves up there with one of the top teams in the nation, who ended up going on to put up points on Bama. And we were like, yo, we played with that team too. And that means basically we can play with Bama. So, you know, being like that, it's just like watching that game back, we were like, we got some things we need to work on, and we had to go and improve. And when we found our groove, and we were able to win, finish the season on a 6-game win streak.
And I love that 6-game win streak, right? Like, this is a Syracuse team that is good enough to take Clemson to the limit. You blew out Virginia. You beat Duke. And honestly, last year, I genuinely think was the best Duke Blue Devil team of all time. Miami was really kind of hurting at the end, so you went in there and dog walked them. And then you got a good UCLA win in the Sun Bowl. You guys really built up a head of steam at the end, and you get a chance to get a couple of tune-ups early, but you got North Carolina in week 4. I'll just put it this way. The schedule sets up good for you guys this year. How y'all feel about it?
I feel great about the schedule. You know, we don't really worry about who's across from us. We just go out there and do our job and play our game. You know, we try to focus on ourselves and doing what we can do, and we try to believe that we're the only team that's capable of beating us. If we do what we're supposed to do, then we can go out there and play with anybody in the country and beat them. So our job is just to do our jobs and trust in ourselves, be confident in our abilities, and go out there and make plays.
I do a gambling show sometimes on the side, and we were taking just dark horse bets as conference champs, and you guys were one of the most popular picks to win the conference. And that's not, no disrespect. Clemson's good, Florida State's good. You guys were one of the most popular picks nationally as a dark horse to win the conference. What does it take for the Pitt Panthers to just nudge that and make sure that you guys are playing back here in Charlotte at the end of the year?
One game at a time. You know, don't worry about what's going to happen in December when we haven't got to August yet. You know, we got to make it through August. We got to work. We got to compete. We got to put the work in. Most importantly, putting in the work will get us to where we want to be. And like I said, just one game at a time. You can't get to December 5th or whatever day the conference championship is without getting past September 2nd. So you got to win one game at a time, one play at a time. You got to really narrow it down and just do your job.
Dude, that was so good. That's so good. That's so good. I love it. MJ Devonshire, defensive back, punt return specialist for the Pitt Panthers. I'm telling y'all, watch out for Pitt this year. It is good to talk to you, man. I'm a huge fan now. I'm pulling for you, brother. Good luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You know it. MJ Devonshire here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. We're back right after this.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's MJ Devonshire, defensive back for the Pitt Panthers. Good conversation. Enjoyed it, but we are going to run very quickly to a break because when we come back, we got one more we recorded for you yesterday. We'll let you hear it. It is, of course, the legendary voice of the Clemson Tigers, Mr. Don Munson. Got a few minutes with Don yesterday, and you will get to hear those few minutes when we come back. Rob Brown, Lonzo, you, the Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate.
The countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate. The Carolina Hurricanes have signed Sebastian Aho to an 8-year, $78 million contract extension. He finished last season with 36 goals to continue a streak of 7 straight seasons with at least 24 goals. The Red Sox beat the Braves 5-3 at Fenway Park. Justin Turner hit a go-ahead 2-run double off the Green Monster in the 7th. Boston swept the 2-game series against the MLB-leading Braves. Brave starter Spencer Strider went 6 1/3. He allowed 2 runs on 6 hits with a walk walk and 10 strikeouts. The Braves are off tonight and return home tomorrow to start a 3-game series against Milwaukee. At Panthers training camp on Wednesday, head coach Frank Reich named top overall pick Bryce Young as the starting quarterback. The team signed wide receiver Javon Wims and cut receiver Marquez Stevenson. The Fan Upstate is your home for Furman Paladin sports all year long. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your phone. I'm Chuck Sanders with the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate.
Don't give in to that constant joint pain. Take back your quality of life and do it today with help from our friends at QC Kinetics. Hey, it's Rob Brown. QC Kinetics is helping people every day here and across the country with their amazing non-surgical treatments that repair and restore damaged joint tissue. They use the latest advances in regenerative medicine, taking your own body's healing agents and concentrating them right in the area where you have that pain. This incredible non-invasive approach helps you take back control of your body, relieving the pain in your knees, hips, shoulder, or back with no invasive surgery.
No way we do that interview here.
No downtime.
Too long?
Listen, summertime needs to be about having fun and making memories, golfing, hiking,
Unless this thing is lying, it's like 17 and a half minutes long.
Call now for your free consultation with QC Kinetics.
Is this supposed to be that long?
Yeah, I mean, I was just kind of killing time while I waited for the next interview. We'll just do a segment here, and then we'll play him at the top of the next hour.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Because that first interview is until like 11:36.
Hi, this is Tara Cervantes, host of the Battleground Podcast. What do longtime Battleground America podcast listeners
Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome for hearing the inside
On-air
baseball.
production, baby.
Yeah, that's how things are done.
Battleground America, I dissect the headlines, challenge the mainstream narratives, and present you with the facts, unfiltered and unabashed.
My wife is texting me. She's concerned there's something wrong with me because I'm moving a bunch in the background. I think you can confirm that I always do that, right?
Yep.
Thank you.
Lonzo's twitchy.
Or maybe it could be a thing where if you move some, the old bones don't stiffen up, and maybe there's a pain somewhere. And if I move a little, it doesn't hurt as much. Could be all that, or it could be that I'm just twitching.
Discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off.
So Trey, I'm starting to believe that you're the guy who's sending that text. Don't be that guy, Trey.
For 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, forhims.com/joy. That's forhims.com/joy for your free online visit. forhims.com/JOY.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information.
So I'm being bombarded by political emails, and I'm wondering, is it okay for me to block a politician because,
it is political BS text season.
To start your free online visit,
and I am over them.
forhims.com/JOY.
Every business seeks an advantage, whether it's having the best location, hiring top talent, or spotting trends before they happen. And now, the
So it's
United
probably
States
not
Postal
because
Service
of
can
where
give your
my
business a new advantage.
other duties are in the building. It's just, I got on some sort of list, maybe.
2 to 5 day package shipping. It's the advantage you need at the price you want. Get the ground advantage at USPS.com/.
Not that I'm thinking, well, this guy knows who I am. That's why he's. I'm not thinking that. Because if so, I need some anonymity.
Anonymity.
I mean, but what am I supposed to do with that? What am I supposed to do with that? If I have that information, what am I supposed to do with that?
Streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app, making a Fan Upstate a favorite.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let us roll on with the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. We're going to pull an audible here. We're going to save the Don Munson interview for the top of the upcoming hour. So here in about 18 minutes, we'll get that Don Munson interview because it is longer than I remember it being when I recorded it.
It's not surprising.
Yesterday.
Don's a great guy, and you guys were probably just, I can't wait to hear the interview.
Oh, it's an easy, Don Munson's an easy conversation to have. I said yesterday on the show, it's always fun to me to get to talk to play-by-play guys because they're kind of in a weird window. Because on one hand, they're obviously super knowledgeable about the team. They kind of, have to be. It's kind of their job. So they're super knowledgeable about the team itself. But they're also a passionate fan, right? Like they're going to be the first to give you the criticisms of what's going on and what's going wrong, but they are also fans. They also want everything to go right. So it's always a really easy conversation and always a very, in my opinion, interesting conversation to have with play-by-play guys like Don Munson. So we will run that interview for you at the very top of the next hour. Texter said, Rob, are you gonna do any work this week or just replay interviews from players we don't give a boat about, end quote. Sorry, that's funny as hell to me. Yes, I've been doing a lot of work this week. I've been in this hotel till about 4 p.m. every single day, and we'll be again today. But look, man, if you don't get into Lonzo, like I think Lonzo and I are pretty damn good at being able to watch a football game, take in a football game, and talk about the football game, right? I can talk schemes, I can talk coverages, I can talk strategies, tactics, substitutions, coaching decisions, and I can do it about football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey, whatever you want, okay? But if that is all you are in for, if that's all you're in for, we're probably not the show for you. Because to me, part of the experience of being a person is the interactions with other people. Part of the fun of sports is the people within sports. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and give you a 15-minute segment that's just about the Pitt Panthers. Although I would think if you were a Clemson fan, this texture is very clearly not. If you're a Clemson fan on the text line, I actually think you should be very interested in the Pitt Panthers because, as I said yesterday, I think the top of this conference, Lonzo, is pretty set, right? I think we all believe that it's Florida State and it's Clemson and then it's everybody else. But the way I've described this, and I've been sitting in on some other podcast and radio shows across the Southeast during the time that we've been here the last 3 days, I have described it multiple times as this conference is made of wild cards this year. There's plenty of North Carolina is a wild card. If you're a South Carolina fan, you should be very interested in what the folks in North Carolina have to say coming up this afternoon because you get them in week 1. That is a wild card in this conference. I think North Carolina is going to be pretty good. I think it's going to be the best North Carolina team maybe we've ever seen. That's not to say they're going to win the ACC. But if you don't think North Carolina might have something to say about the shape of college football, I don't know why. Duke, same situation. This is going to be the best Duke team that has ever played football under the Blue Devil logo. They're going to be good this year. Yeah, is Duke going to be an ACC contender? No, probably not. But, Lonzo, Duke won 9 games last year, and the 3 games that they lost were all by 8 points or fewer. Not many schools can say that they were 9-3 and that all 3 losses were by a touchdown and 2-point conversion or less. That's pretty damn impressive. They were about a combined 15 points away from being undefeated 12-0 last year in the ACC. That's pretty impressive. That's a wild card. Pitt, as we mentioned, Narduzzi has a bunch of returners on the defensive side of the ball that are going to have to carry this team while they rebuild offense. Flip that around. A bunch of starters on offense that are going to have to carry this team while he rebuilds defense. But what has Narduzzi done his entire career but build good defenses from scratch? Pitt is a wild card this year. NC State, same scenario. Real aggressive defense, real fun defense to watch. NC State has given both Florida State and Clemson a number of fits over the past couple of years. Real interesting team to watch.
All right. So I'm going to. I don't know who this texter pulls for. I kind of know. I think
you do. You know who they do. Yep.
There's an arrogance behind that. That's like doesn't matter who they put in front of us. We're going to beat them. Imagine yourself as a boxer or someone in the UFC. and you're doing your training camp, doing your thing, you're ready to go. Do you not watch fights from your opponent? Do you not try to break down their strengths or weaknesses? Do you not do that? Or do you roll into a fight going, I'm just better than everybody else, there's no way I'm going to be surprised? Because if you have that mentality, you're going to lose some. And I guarantee you that the coaches for Clemson are not looking at it that way.
Oh, for sure. But I also think it's I hate to be cliche here, but I also think it is, to me, are you not intrigued by the human element of the sport, right? Like, I will tell you this, when I got this job, when I came up for the first time and I sat down with Mark Hendricks and Steve and the folks in the office who made the decision to allow me to work here, and they said, kind of give me the tone, like, what's the tone of your show? And I said, look, I can deep dive sports. I can sit here and break down offenses and defenses and special teams, and I can do it about basketball, football, soccer, hockey, baseball, you name the sport. If it ain't lacrosse, I can get into it. And I said, but to me, the fun in sports is the people in sports, right? Like, Aaron Rodgers is interesting in his move to the Jets, obviously, because it shakes up that division and it shakes up the AFC as a whole. But let's be real, Lonzo, if you flip channels and you see 10 shows talking about Aaron Rodgers, are they talking about his impact on the Jets offense under Robert Saleh? Or are we having hilarious conversations about him living in hobbit holes and doing mushrooms in the dark? One of those things is more interesting than the other to a large swath of people.
I do believe it's a mix of both, and that's what it should be.
Yes.
It's a mix of both. You're gonna get the jokes, you're gonna get the haters who hate him because things he did or did not do. You're gonna get the guys who are like, man, that guy is weird. You're gonna get the jealousy people because of all the celebrities he's dated. But you know why we know about all that kind of stuff?
Because people like me, Lonzo.
Because people are interested, and we're going to bring it to you. I mean, I don't remember the name of the lady he's dating now, but I do know she's purported to be a witch. How do I know that? Because someone talked about it. That's
the internet's weird.
Yes.
So, again, like, to me, the human side of these guys is very interesting. Listening to Marlo Wax of Syracuse not just break down his ice cream NIL from an NIL standpoint, but then to get uber passionate about the correct way to deploy different flavors of ice cream in different scenarios. I don't know, man. It's just, it's fun to me. It's interesting to me. All right. Texture said, hey, if any of those teams can knock Clemson down a few blocks, I'll listen. And as a Gamecock fan, I am concerned that North Carolina is going to kick our SSS. I don't think he meant kick our SSS, but, you got it.
Come on, dude. Come off the ledge. You're good.
Look, I think that game's going to be a game.
Don't let Rob Brown hype you to the point where, and the Braves are horrible right now. Don't let Rob Brown hype you to the point where you believe that South Carolina's not going to win that game. Let me help you.
Did I ever say anything close to that?
You're building up that other team.
Yes, I am building up that other team because that other team is good, and I'm tired of people pretending that they're not because they play in the ACC. North Carolina is going to be a good team this year. I will not say that South Carolina can't beat them because they absolutely can beat them. It's going to take a heck of a running effort, and obviously that is probably the weakness of the South Carolina offense this year. But I'm tired of pretending like I have to sit here and look at North Carolina, at Pitt, at Clemson, at Florida State, and pretend. Hell, I'm tired of pretending that I don't have to pretend like Duke isn't the best they've ever been when they were 9-3 and a combined 15 points away from being undefeated. I'm tired of having to pretend like this conference, and I'm going to say this, hate on haters, isn't the second best conference in college football right now, because it is. It is. And the Gamecocks are absolutely going to have their hands full with North Carolina. I'm not saying they can't win, but ladies and gentlemen, Vegas has got North Carolina as a -2.5 point favorite for a reason.
All right, I have retired the cart wall for this week, but I had to bring it back just to play some roosters. Don't listen to Rob on this. You're good,
okay.
Gamecock fans. You are.
Okay.
You're good.
Again, I never said they weren't.
And plus, I didn't want to scare him to death in front of a bunch of people.
I appreciate that.
I am not playing a certain cut.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Until tomorrow. I'll bring it back tomorrow.
I think it's going to get worn out tomorrow, I have no doubt.
Yeah, but today I'm not doing that because the escalator's behind him. I would rather him not leap backwards and end up, just disappearing out of view. I don't want that to happen.
Look, all I'm saying is this. That South Carolina-North Carolina game, that border war is going to be in Charlotte week 1. I'm going to be there, all right? I don't know if I'm going as a fan or if I'm going on a press pass, but I'm going to be there because that is going to be incredible. The 2 best games of college football's week 1 are Florida State versus LSU. That one's going to be real interesting. You have got an FSU team that is nipping at Clemson's heels to get back into the fight for ACC supremacy every year versus an LSU team. A lot of people think Brian Kelly's got that team not pointed in the right direction, but pretty much there. That one is going to go a long way to determine not just which conference is the superior conference. That one's just going to determine which of those 2 teams is a legitimate playoff threat. The winner of that game has already a leg up on getting into the college football playoffs. And the other best game of week 1, in my opinion, is South Carolina versus North Carolina. That game's going to be phenomenal, and I can't wait to watch both of them. All right, let's take a break. When we come back in the next segment, Don Munson is the voice of the Clemson Tigers. Got a chance to sit down and talk some ball with him yesterday, and you will hear that interview next. I am Rob Brown, the great one. Lonzo back in the network studio. This is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate.
You're listening to live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Charlotte, powered by your local Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
Okay, that's an incredible transition on that video.
More in credit card debt, medical bills, or other.
Yeah, it's someone did some real work.
Incredible transition on that video.
Special programs now in effect that will significantly reduce the amount you will owe.
It's one of those where you see it out of the corner of your eyes, like what?
Consolidation loan. These programs, which the credit card companies like to keep secret, exist to aid American consumers struggling with overwhelming credit card debt by offering tremendous savings and real debt relief. Accredited Debt Relief has established a special hotline for you to call and learn what savings you qualify for. They've helped qualify consumers with over $1 billion in debt and are A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. So don't wait. Get the relief you need during these hard economic times. For this free information, call the Accredited Debt Relief hotline now. Call 800-873-7171. 800-873-7171. 800-873-7171.
So according to the text, Rob's not working, but how much of a break do you get after the show before you got like an hour, maybe 2 hours?
Let's see, count. We have done at noon. Our next interview is at 12:40, so a short break there. That one's done at 12:48, and then we get Dabo at 2. So I've got about a 45-minute break, 8 minutes of work, and then about an hour and 12 minutes till Dabo. Then we have Dabo and Cade until, actually we have Dabo, Cade, and we'll put them back to back till
He just
2:40.
said, I'm very excited to go
And
to
at
Spain with
2:40,
you.
I am
Vamos a tener mucha
done,
diversión.
Jack.
And that means we're going to have so much fun.
Sí. Gracias, Babel.
The texters may not appreciate all the hard work that you're putting forth, but I do. So
I appreciate it, Lonzo.
I've been there. I've done it, at least from the setup and tear down standpoint and dealing with the entire room.
Yep.
So I completely get it, and it can be grueling. And you're pulling in full days, and you should be commended, sir. You should win some sort of award.
And, by the way, doing it by myself.
Distributor for Coleman Line and HVAC systems. So give your
Doing it by myself.
And give priority heating and air.
You're right, Roger. He's just playing up the ACC because he's there. Big Ten definitely is 1 or 2. It just depends on how you look at it. But
The
ACC
SEC is 1. I think if you go 7 teams deep, the ACC is as good as.
He was doing this yesterday. I wasn't buying it, but we're not in the same room.
All right.
So I want to call.
I'll tell you what. I'll have that segment put together. I hate doing conference discussions, but you got me doing one tomorrow. So.
I'm not here to do that.
See, here's what we're going to do.
Actually,
if you look at Team 3 from Team. See?
Well,
the solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6812. Don't lose hope.
Go ahead and tell
TRA can
you
eliminate
ladies
or
that I'm
reduce
very,
what you
very
owe to the
jealous
IRS.
of
There is zero risk to you. If
the
we
fact
can't
that
reduce your tax
y'all
debt, then you pay nothing. Our
can
passion
pull
is
off
taxes
shorts
and helping individuals
as a
fix their
professional
IRS
look. I'm
problems.
very
We have
jealous
a
of that.
5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need
Yeah,
to
you
be
probably
afraid of
shouldn't do that
IRS
because the boss is watching.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Even if the boss was like, yeah, I don't care if you wear shorts, I can do it. I cannot pull off shorts professionally.
800-575-6812. That's 800-575-6812.
all you have to say is you're going for the Kirk Cousins look, and it's in right now. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's either slamming it or saying, man, I want to be like that. So, if you go with the Kirk Cousins look, you're just following a fashion trend.
I kind of am in the
Yeah,
Kirk
you are
Cousins
without
look
the
right now.
shorts. Without the shorts. Yeah.
And I think there's going to be enough success there. I'm not going to predict SEC championships. I'm not going to predict national championships. But I think there's going to be enough 8 and 9 win seasons that keep him at South Carolina. And I don't see him wanting to go.
Shane Beamer doesn't leave of his own volition. I think Shane Beamer gets fired in the next 15 years. The SEC is a gauntlet, has been a gauntlet, will continue to be a gauntlet, will only get harder. I don't predict anybody in the SEC sticking around for 12, 15,
I don't
20
predict.
years.
Number one for
He's wearing a Swami hat.
Sports Talk.
Offsides with Mark Ryan.
But I left the commercials in again.
Upstate.
They suck.
Fan Upstate will be broadcasting live
God,
from
Lonzo, do
Carolina
better.
Panthers training camp from Wofford this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 11
Perhaps
a.m.
I'll be suspended.
Mark and I have very different takes on what to expect from
With
the
pay,
boys in
hopefully, because I don't want to be suspended without.
Bryce Young, Frank Reich combo become one of the best duos in the NFL.
And can Carolina
Get suspended with pay. I'm going to Panther camp for the rest of the week.
It's the Fan Upstate with Rob and Mark Ryan from Carolina Panthers training
That's not
camp this
suspension. That's just you doing what you want to do. I respect it.
Well, yeah, I mean, so people who are suspended just go home and stare at the walls and contemplate the reason why they're suspended.
Yeah, that's a suspension.
Oh, okay.
It's a go think about what you did.
It's like an in-school suspension. Okay. Not that I know what that is. I saw Breakfast Club.
The final, the best of money hour of the Rob Brown Show goes down, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Fan Upstate. Yeah, welcome back. Good to have you, Rob Brown, the great Lonzo, and you can be a part of the phone on the phone lines. You can be a part of the show on the phone lines. There you go. I can do it. You can be a part of the show.
Their phones,
on the phone.
like dial phone thing.
Push
Now.
numbers, make go, 844-326-3663, 844-326-3663. Text us at 71307, 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, and we'll read them on the air. And as a texter pointed out on the text line just a moment ago, ladies and gentlemen, let us not forget as I tell you that the second best game in week 1 in the college football slate is North Carolina, South Carolina, and Charlotte. That is the game that ESPN's College Game Day has elected to attend to start their season and debut their 2023 lineup.
Yeah, but why? Why would they do that? I mean, why would they go there? Is it more for South Carolina? Is it more for North Carolina? Or do they believe it's going to be a good game?
Because it's going to be a really good game, and I'm tired of pretending like it's not. It's that simple, man. I don't know why I sang it, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think I'm just getting frustrated because since I ended that last segment, it has been nothing but text and stream comments telling me that no, I'm wrong.
Okay.
Look,
ladies and gentlemen, Rob is tired. He's a tired man.
Rob is tired, and you know what else he is? He's right again. He's right. We'll get into it. I'll tell you what, like I said, I hate conference v. conference debate. I hate it. It drives me up
Stop
a
pronouncing
wall.
your H's.
I hate conference v. conference discussions, but I'm going to go ahead and call the shot right now. I think at the end of this year, the ACC is going to be demonstrably better top to bottom than the Big Ten. Top to buy 1 through 14.
Notice how he's getting louder because he's at
Right.
ACC Media Days. He's surrounded by ACC media and coaches. And, if you were at Big Ten Media Days,
I'd say it there too. What you think? I'm afraid. What you think? You think James Franklin's gonna get me?
Why are you looking around? He might.
He might. For real. Like, I'm trying to see who's up in here right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. Yesterday we got the opportunity to sit down with Don Munson, the voice of the Clemson Tiger football program. We spent a few minutes with Don and went over the offseason. We talked a little bit about the mentality of this football team and what he saw out of them during this offseason. This is yesterday's conversation with the voice of the Tigers, Don Munson.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rob Brown Show on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, and you know it is one of my favorite parts of ACC Media Days every year. We are now joined by I'm going to call him to his face, a legend, the legendary voice of the Clemson Tigers, Mr. Don Munson here on the show. How you doing, young man?
I am good. I like the young man part. Legend, I'm not so much.
Well, I mean, it's up to me, really. It's so good to have you back, buddy. How's everything going for you?
Everything's been good. Been a good summer. Summer's not officially over yet. Still got a few things that I'll be able to slide in before we really get going strong in football season. So it's not over for me yet.
Getting enough golfing?
I'm trying to. I played a little bit more here the last couple of weeks, so I've probably got another 2 or 3 rounds that are still left in me before I put them on.
Call me when you're ready for a lesson, because I'll teach you everything not to do.
I got you. I got you.
Don Munson joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Man, this offseason has been real interesting. The narrative, and I want to start here because I've been really enjoying asking the players about, we've had a couple of guys, Miami center, Virginia's quarterback, guys that have gone into and out of the portal, because I think we spent a lot of time focusing on the coaches and their thoughts on the portal and the NIL and all that. We haven't really got to do it with the players. Clemson's got a couple of guys that have come in to fill some roles, had a couple of guys that have left. As far as the changes to this roster and the impacts on the roster, specifically for guys coming and going from the portal, is there anything that's jumped out at you this offseason?
It's funny, and I think it's a great question to ask the student athletes, because I think the portal is something totally different to the student athletes than it is to coaches, and it is to us, the media members, than it is to fans. I think the portal for a student athlete really is, it gives them an opportunity, is what it does. Whereas fan base, I can't believe that guy's leaving, or thank goodness that guy's leaving. One of the two. There's no fence riding, it seems, with the portal from that standpoint. So, as you look at it, certainly quarterback position in college football, that's where it probably has the biggest impact. Like at Pitt, here's a new quarterback who's bounced around already inside the league, last at Boston College, and now he comes down and is going to take over. I think that he's a really good fit at Pitt. I mean, I really do. I think that he's a really good fit there. And in my mind, Pitt may be one of those teams that gets a little overlooked because of that. I can see Pitt easily playing here in Charlotte, come that first Saturday in December.
We're talking to Don Munson, voice of the Clemson Tigers here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. The offseason so we were at the open house a couple of weeks ago, and Garrett Riley comes in, new OC. Dabo sheds whoever held the narrative of, he only hires his guys inside the program. He sheds that. He gets the biggest splash, I think, of any OC hire in all of college football this year. We got a chance to talk to Garrett Riley, and what blew me away, aside from the fact of how incredibly good-looking and well put together he is, was he made it an emphasis to tell us, hey, we're going to run the ball. We're going to pound the ball. We got Phil Maffa. We've got Quadzilla. We're going to pound the football this year. To the point that it almost kind of was like, Coach, are you playing with me at this point? What's your view on what this offense looks like under a first-year OC and Garrett Riley?
Well, it was at that event that he coined the phrase, forget air raid, we're going to be dirt raid. We're going to come out and make sure that they run the football. And I think they are. I mean, I really believe that. You go back, and I purposely have done this now, gone back to watch TCU, and I need to go watch some SMU stuff when he was at SMU as well. But they really do champion the run, and then they'll get linebackers, maybe even a DB to bite, and all of a sudden they're going by him and throwing it over the top and hitting him with a long pass play. So, Clemson's standpoint, they certainly have the cats to be able to run the football. No doubt about it. Shipley and Maffa are two guys, and I believe that Cade's going to have himself a pretty good year running the football. I wouldn't be shocked to see him run for better than 500 yards as a quarterback. And if he's able to do that with all those other two guys, then that's going to take a lot of the load off what they have to do through the air game. But they're also going to be a team that I think can throw the ball well. The question is going to become with this, and it reminds me, Rob, a lot of 2011 when Chad Morris came on, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, Chad, obviously comes in and he changed things so dramatically from what was happening to what he put in. That doesn't so much happen now because Clemson was running already a little bit of the spread, but because of the injury at wide receiver, they couldn't run really as much of it as they wanted to. But if they can have wide receivers that come in and stay healthy, and that'll be the key at that position, staying healthy and being available week in and week out, then this is a team that hopefully can come out and average somewhere around 38, 35 points per game.
Talk to me a little bit about the development of Cade Klubnik. Excited to get the chance to talk to him later. Last year, there were a lot of jokes being made about Cade's first couple of games really kind of being a handoff machine, very, very low number of passes attempted, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it gave him an opportunity, and there was still pressure on the team because the playoffs were still very on the table late in the year, but it gave him the time to kind of feel the speed of the game before you started asking for more down the field. And then I think with that, coming in early against the Duke team, that, by the way, it's a 9-win team and lost all 3 games by 1 score or less. That's a good little Duke team.
17 starters back.
Yeah, and 17 starters back. And a coach, by the way, that it seems every player is way bought into in Elko. It's a real good challenge. So I think Cade coming in last year and getting some opportunity to fit in and get the speed of the game before he was asked to go be an all-star quarterback, probably going to help the development, and especially with such a tough game out of the gate.
Yeah, I think that it did help him. I think the 2 games that he got to really see extensive action, and obviously the ACC championship game here in Charlotte, and then the Orange Bowl as well. And people, I think, look at the Orange Bowl and there were a lot of young moments that happened, particularly at the end of the first half when he tries to take off and run with it. And, you got to get rid of the football, obviously, just to get points on the board. But early on in that game, he was not helped out by special teams. He missed a couple of field goals just to get a chance to get points on the board. And then he did run 102 plays. They ran 102 plays in that game against Tennessee. It was unfortunate. Once they got to the 30-yard line, they just couldn't find a way to move the ball forward from there. So, but I think that he and Riley are going to be a good mix. I think that there's going to be a good blend and a good mix. And I can tell you that physically, Cade has changed. I mean, I've already seen him, and physically, he has made that step forward that you need every quarterback to be able to do.
It's been impressive because the same with DJ last year. When DJ walked in here, he just looked like a different cat, right? He looked bigger, he looked put on body mass, and I mean, we can talk about the results off to the side. I have been impressed when we were there for the open house and we got to tour the gym and all that. There are elements of Clemson's football program I don't think get enough credit, and the nutrition and fitness and development crew is way up on that list.
It is. I mean, and that starts with the head man. I mean, these are all things that the head man wanted to have in place. Now, it took him some time to get all of these various things, in there. But it starts with Coach Sweeney, and the players certainly have bought into it. You will see when you come to camp. Hopefully, you'll be able to come down to camp early on part of August when things are open up for the media. But you will see that there's not too many fat boys that are running around out there. Now, we have some big kids.
If I come to camp, there'll be one.
Yeah. We've got some big kids, don't get me wrong, but when you look at their, just their body mass, it's not that blubbery substance that is out there. I mean, so it's all part of how, and it's not just at Clemson though, it's how everything has changed. I mean, you go to any of these things, there's just the nutrition factor, learning what to eat, how to eat, what to put in your body, what to keep out of your body has changed tremendously in the last 5-7 years probably.
Lonzo and I won't take too much offense to blubbery substance. We're talking to Don Munson.
Lonzo, that was a shot at you.
Yeah. We're talking to Don Munson, voice of the Clemson Tigers. Another guy I really want to talk about, Will Shipley. And I go back to the Florida State game at Clemson a couple of years back, because Will Shipley won that game for Clemson, in my opinion. It was a real good game, back and forth. Florida State had an edge, and then Will Shipley took off. And he's kind of been wildly consistent. To me, while we wait for Cade to, and I think it'll take a few games to develop, to me, Will Shipley is kind of the guy that's got to shoulder the load of rolling this offense. Are we going to see Will Shipley really get the lion's share of the touches early by chance?
He has to stay healthy. I mean, let's just be flat out honest about it. Last year he didn't stay healthy, and it cost him. He has to stay healthy. Clemson needs him to stay healthy. That's where I think that Phil Maffa is going to be able to help him a little bit, because he and Maffa, how many carries are there going to be for football, for Clemson football? Are there going to be 35 rushing attempts, per game? Well, if there are, Cade's going to have, 7, maybe as many as 12 of those. All right, so now you're down to 23 rushes. All right, so how many times are they actually going to touch the football? Shipley is a guy that probably should touch it, carry it 15, 18 times a game. If he can get to 20, all right, big plus there. Maffa's a guy that could probably carry it 10, 15 times per contest as well. But Shipley, I think, does have to be that guy, and not just carrying the football, but then also being available as a safety valve or whatever you want to call it, coming out of the backfield and catching the football. A lot of coaches just look at that, hey, that's really a run play. All we're doing is just getting him a head start, getting him a little bit of motion, and just dumping it off to him and letting him do his thing.
Talk to me about the wide receiver room, because obviously developing Cade is going to rely on Adam Randall, Bo Collins, Antonio Williams, etc. Have we seen some growth out of these guys during the offseason that translates to Cade really having kind of a comfort blanket out there to throw to?
Yeah, the name you mentioned, Bo Collins, I think is probably the biggest name that is out there, because he is a guy that does have some experience. He was a guy that was having a really good season last year until what happened? He got injured, he got hurt. And that wide receiver room, for whatever, has been, it's like, somebody got voodoo dolls on each of the guys, and they're, killing them. But that wide receiver room has to stay healthy. But Bo Collins, to me, I think is the key. I think that he really is the key, because he can be a little bit of a difference maker. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical. He was the target when DJ had it going on early on in the season. It was Collins that was his target for those big plays, whether that came back to playing together in high school or whatever, the familiarity with one another. But I think that Bo has to be the guy that steps forward. Adam Randall is certainly, he's a different kind of cat, but he hasn't shown what he can do on the football. So he's a little bit still of an untested and unknown. He needs to come out and prove himself, whereas I think Bo has already been there to prove himself, but he just needs to stay like Shipley. He's got to stay healthy.
Don Munson, voice of the Tigers. All right, let's start looking at a couple other teams around the league. And I'll start with just an overall view. I've been saying the last couple of days, Don, this might be the best the best this conference has looked in a while. Duke's 9-3. Drake May's got North Carolina playing the best football I can remember they're playing. Mario Cristobal at Miami. I know they kind of had a rough year last year, but the Miami folks I've talked to really believe they're there. And then, of course, there's Mike Norvell at Florida State, who would love to make Clemson-Florida State the rivalry that it was 10, 11 years ago. Conference-wise, I still think Clemson is the best team in this conference, but the competition's there. Does Dabo know that? Are we paying attention to that? Is there a little pressure there?
Oh, yeah, I think that he absolutely knows that, and he likes that. And, he's gone into coaches' meetings and those things that they have down at Amelia Island in the spring, and he's been one of those that's been a fact. Hey, we need, it can't just be Clemson. It can't just be Clemson and Florida State. And when Miami came into the league, I can remember when they were, but they haven't been what we thought maybe they were going to be in the league. Same thing like Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is a football. They need to have successful football in Blacksburg to help out this conference. And I think there are, other programs that are there along that same like this is I always hear Mark Packer saying, I can always remember him saying, ACC is better in basketball when NC State is good. Because you could always count on Duke, you can always count on North Carolina, obviously, but when NC State is good as well, then usually the league is a little bit better. So, yeah, we need some teams to be better. We need some teams. And there's some games early on now inside the league playing other conference opponents. We need to find out some ways to win. Like, it would be great if Florida State could open up with a win against LSU. It would be great to see North Carolina beat South Carolina, other than just for the Clemson factor. But for the league, that would be a good move. For those, and there's some other games that are early on in the schedule like that I think that the league needs to win and maybe because so often, what was it, Andre Agassi, used to always used to always say, hey, image is everything. Well, image is everything. You usually establish that image with the league early on, and that will happen in the month of September.
So I'm looking up and down the schedule this year. We know we got Duke out of the gate September 4th. Again, a 9-3 football team, 17 starters coming back. They lost all 3 games last year by 8 points or less. That's a good team.
Yep.
Charleston Southern, Florida Atlantic, and then Florida State comes to call it. And that's an interesting game. I'll tell you one that I think flies under the radar, that I think is very interesting, and that's that Syracuse game on the 30th, right after Florida State. That one's interesting.
It is, because for whatever reason, Clemson goes to that dome, and strange things happen up there. I mean, there's been some squeaker wins. There's been some blowout wins. There's been some upsets, obviously, that have happened up there. But I'm with you. I kind of like the fact that you look at it because it's coming off that Florida State game. There's an emotional high, or is it an emotional low? If they're coming off of a loss, you got to figure out a way to go to Syracuse and take care of what I think is going to be probably a pretty good football game.
And then let's look at the last 4 games of the year. Notre Dame, that's going to be at home.
Yep.
Georgia Tech, that's going to be at home. And again, I think Georgia Tech's pointed in a great direction. Got a lot of work to get there, but they're in the right direction. They'd love to win that. Then you got North Carolina, and I think we'll learn a lot about North Carolina in week 1 as they got South Carolina.
Right.
But if Drake May is who I think he is, that team could be pretty good. And then, of course, you got to go to Willie B.
Right.
That is about a tough a 4-game stretch as anybody's going to be looking at. How important is it for Clemson to come into that healthy and ready to roll this last 4
Well,
weeks?
I mean, that's what Coach Sweeney calls his championship phase of the season, is once he gets to the month of November. He's always, they always remember what happens in November. So yeah, I think that does become the critical 4-game stretch for Clemson, and Clemson wants to get where they want to be, and that's playing in another ACC championship game, and then if you're fortunate enough, being elected to be one of those teams up before to play for an opportunity at least to get to a national championship.
All right, and then, of course, we would be remiss if we did not talk about that game against South Carolina. I mean, first off, a heck of a football game last year in Memorial Stadium. It goes to Willie B this year. Shane and the Gamecocks feel good. Spencer Rattler, who had a good day against Clemson, not as good as he did against Tennessee, but a good day on the road at Clemson. All of a sudden, and I know it's only 1 versus the 7 before, but this game feels like a rivalry game.
Well, see,
in
that's
the best kind of way.
That's what happens when anytime that a long streak, either side, it's broken, and then then the very next time that the 2 teams come and play, it seems like it's just a totally different atmosphere and affair. So that one will always be the classic that it always usually shapes up to be inside the Palmetto State. And I think that we're headed for another one, certainly.
I love it. We are talking to Don Munson. He is the voice of the Clemson Tigers. My man, it is always good to have you on the air. I appreciate your time, big dog. Cannot wait for football season to hear you back on the radio.
Looking forward to it. It's not that far away, so enjoy the month of August. Soak up what you can, because it'll get busy once we get to September.
I'll try to get rid of that blubber beforehand, big dog. Don Munson, voice of the Tigers. Appreciate you, fella. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you so much, Rob.
All right, we're back after this on the Rob Brown Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fan Upstate.
Blubber, Lonzo. That's what he called. He called not sturdy, not thick. He called it blubber.
Yeah, you and I, we're sturdy. We don't have blubber. Blubber it's a totally different thing. I mean, that's stuff how much overhang do you have? That's blubber. Overhang is blubber. When you can't squeeze it all in to where it needs to go, that's blubber.
How much overhang do you have? Hey, you know what? I accept that, Lonzo, because look, I'm sturdy, but it ain't folded over yet. You know what I mean?
As someone who reached the heights of around 400, I know what overhang is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's Don Munson.
When you know your toes are down there, but you can't see them. Yeah. I mean,
Oh man, I'm not sure that's exactly the conversation I expected to have coming out of a Don Munson interview, but here we are. Let's take a break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we got a bunch more for you. We'll be joined here in just a few minutes by Emmett Moorhead, the quarterback at Boston College, and more. I am Rob. He is Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Fan Upstate. What's up, big guy?
Can you go early?
100%. 100%. Absolutely. Perfect.
This is live coverage from the ACC kickoff in Uptown Charlotte, powered by.
They are moving our 11:36 up to 11:28.
Okay, that should time
Doesn't
out.
really have a big impact, but
That should time out good as far as that goes because the break will be ending around.
Yep.
That means I probably should get Twitter together.
Yep.
Okay. You know, and that thing that we normally do on Thursday, we can do tomorrow if you want.
Yep.
I mean, especially since there's a premium live event Sunday.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's move Fight Club to tomorrow. We'll have Moorhead next, and then we'll do Twitter to wrap it up.
Because I don't want to deprive the chance that you might hit the Nerf wall.
Also,
people are still begging for that.
I know they are. It's too bad it's never going to happen.
Marcus Lattimore and Shoeless Joe Jackson. Allow me to give my take, if you would be so kind.
Next
Marcus
Tuesday
Lattimore was a fantastic 5-star running back.
We'll be joined on the phone line by an AEW superstar.
He was great at South
Actually,
Carolina.
let's just call him
Marcus
wrestling.
Lattimore had no NFL career through no fault of his
I will
own.
not tell you
We'll see. Marcus
who it is
Lattimore has done
yet,
a lot of
who it
great
is
for the
confirmed.
community. But I don't think the favorite athlete from a region like ours that has produced so many great athletes can have a what if attached to it. Shoeless Joe Jackson is the best player that's ever lived in baseball, according to one.
Wow.
I guess I can just tell you, there's not really a reason to make me surprised.
Yeah, you're just trying to mess with me. I mean, I get it. That's fine. You can give me a clue and see if I can figure it out.
Okay.
Or if someone listening and watching can figure it out.
Let's see. I will say.
97.1 FM Spartanburg.
I'm just going to tell you because I can't play brain games. Next Tuesday morning, we'll be joined on the phones by Darby Allin.
He's not young, dude. He's not young.
What do you mean he's not young?
He's in his 30s.
He's 30. That's young.
Yeah, well,
for me,
I think
young to me now.
if you're 30, that makes you in your 30s, right? I mean, you know, I'm not. I mean,
like the technical definition.
Can you only say you're in the E's or whatever once you hit 31?
No, I think 30 makes you in your 30s, technically speaking.
I think so too. It is a continuation of that, James. Funny you should say that. I just had to discontinue that.
That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com.
Any possibility of StreamYard, or is it only phone?
They are going to report back to me.
Okay, so we've got to take a bet on whether he'll be wearing makeup or not.
If he's on StreamYard, I would.
I don't know. See, you can't. All right, so the question already. I'm not telling them.
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say he doesn't.
I'm not telling them the question that I told you I would have asked somebody else, but I can ask him that question.
Yeah.
Because he works closely with that person. I will ask him if he can relay a message. So you already know that question is coming, so you can try to quell it if you want. But you know you want it. You want to hear the answer. 30 seconds.
Alright, so we will go for about a minute and a half before he sets up and joins us. Then we'll jump into that. When he's done, we'll jump right back in.
It's the Fan Upstate with Rob Brown and
Okie doke.
this Saturday morning from 9 to 11.
Hey, look, I left the commercials in again. I'm in so much trouble.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is the Fan Upstate. We are awaiting the imminent arrival of the starting quarterback for Boston College. Emmett Moorhead will be joining us here in just a moment from right now. Emmett Moorhead, a freshman.
What a
getting the
very
nod last
quarterback-like name.
Emmett Moorhead is a
that's
perfect
definitely
college name.
that's a QB.
Now
right there.
I'm gonna tell you, Lonzo, I have not seen him yet. All right, like I think we're his first interview with the day. I've not seen him yet. I'm gonna tell you that last year, Emmett Moorhead played football with an immaculate set of locks hanging off the dome. He's a good hair guy. All right. Good hair guy.
Yeah, but it's like, media, and they frown upon you having good hair. I think it's jealousy.
Dude, you're going to be so happy. And I just realized that we don't have our guest cam up, so you're not going to get to see it. That's all right. We'll come up with it in a minute. Throw that headset on, young man. Let's talk some football. We are now very happy to be joined. He is the quarterback for the Boston College Eagles, joining us here on the show. Emmett Morehead, how we doing, young man?
Great.
I'm good, buddy.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, how's Media Day treating you so far?
It's great. It's a lot of fun.
I like it.
A lot of action.
Yeah. I got to start. So you can't see my buddy. I'm going to turn it around. Lonzo's got great hair. Look at the locks on this young man, Lonzo, and tell me.
I got to see his.
Here, you can. Here, I'll spin Lonzo around for you. That's my man back
there.
Right?
Okay.
We're big on hair around here, man. You gotta look good to feel good, play good, right?
It's very important that you have good hair. Rob's working on it though. Look,
I am working on it.
A little bit of length coming in there.
I'm not in the Emmett Morehead game yet though. How you feeling, man? Good media circus for you so far?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I don't want to say too much about what we're trying to do.
Sure.
We got a lot of really, really good people coming in and doing that. I'm really excited.
I love it, man. Feeling so you got your opportunity to step in last year. You and Drake May of North Carolina, the only freshman quarterback who put together multiple 325-yard and 3-touchdown games over the course of the year, which is a pretty impressive group to be in. Talk to me a little bit about the growth you're taking from last year into this year.
Last year is as hard as it will get.
Yep.
I firmly believe that. I think in my career, I think I'd be able to look back and say, in terms of what we were working with, that was really difficult. Not being able to run the ball, action pass game directly. Play action game was just not working. We basically dropped 8. We tried to throw on that. So I think moving forward, I can just build off how well I prepared for that opportunity last year. I felt so ready to go in and have my moment. It was brief, but really enjoyed it. I think I learned so much about check down. Like, where can you get the ball to quickly with that offensive line? No shame to them. We converted 2 defensive linemen to play offensive line because of depth. Not where we wanted to be at all. And then this year, now we have competition for each spot. That's really in the offseason what I was trying to preach to Coach Haskins. That's my whole emphasis. We have so many good skill players. We have so many good other positions, and then now we have great depth.
I'm interested in watching. You guys coming off of a 3-9 season, but as you mentioned, there was a lot going on below the surface that anybody except Boston College fans probably were unaware of. But I'm looking this year at a team that I think is absolutely capable of being bowl eligible or better. I'm looking at, as you mentioned, an offensive line that is going to be, I don't want to say dramatically better, but you got offensive linemen playing offensive line this year, right? And defensively, 30.3 points per game allowed by your defense, but kind of a similar situation of you had some guys having to go 2 ways. Let's talk.
A little bit his true freshman year. He's in my class. So this is going into his 3rd season. He looks great. He's been one of my top receivers throughout spring ball, throughout camp. I know he's going to be big, and this season he's going to shock a lot. And then as well, Lewis Bond is a really good slot receiver. He's also in my class. I've been working with him now for 3 years. So we have a great connection. He's going to be somebody that shocks a lot. Well, he's an NFL stock. He's got great hands, runs really good routes. So we have a lot of very explosive guys. Zay is just one of a kind. And I don't think there's a great comparison for anybody in America. So I don't want to draw anything between Ryan and Hayden or anybody. Zay is his own guy. And Ryan has an unbelievable speed, and we're going to use that as our opportunity.
As a quarterback, talk to me about having a weapon like that, a guy that is capable of, really just toasting any DB he's up against. Obviously you've got to worry about time to let him get down the field, to bust that, not just get that step, but create the room for you to drop a ball in there. But when you know you have that guy on the outside as a quarterback, does he automatically become a first option for you? Is there just like a really nice toy to play with if reads 1, 2, 3 don't go the way you want him to?
I'll say two things. Really nice when you can give him a check down, like a shallow route, and he takes it 40 yards for a touchdown. That's where Zay is incredible.
I believe that.
He can make, in Duke I gave him a shallow, and he had a spin move that broke 3 tackles at once, and got into the end zone. And then in NC State, just past the 50-yard line going in, I gave him another shallow, and he ran 40 yards for a touchdown. So that is part of what separates him, but man-to-man coverage was when it really got fun for us, and that's when we knew there wasn't going to be any DBs that could cover him well enough down the field for man-to-man to not win. And I'm just grateful to know that opponent in a short amount of time like this. He's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun. Be around him.
Talk to me about your coach, Jeff Hafley. 3-9 record drops into 15-20, but like you mentioned, I think last year you kind of catch a mulligan on that based on just some circumstances. What's it been like, not just to work with him as a quarterback coach duo, but to do it where both of you guys know that this is a real opportunity for Boston College to get the turnaround, especially in a year when the ACC is getting better. You kind of want to attach your momentum overall and have the conference attach its momentum to you. So what's the relationship like between you guys coming off a 3-9 record and expecting better of yourselves this year?
We had the biggest offseason I've seen since I've been at BC. Every single person that has a chance to play next year worked incredibly hard. The weight room, the film room, everything. We're doing extra work. And a lot of that is just making sure we don't ever put ourselves in that position again. And it might have been unavoidable last year with the injuries. We can never predict it. But we're just extremely motivated. The stuff that we're doing right now is just so much better than where we were last year. And with our new staff as well, with Coach Chud, the offensive scheme is just super fun. We're watching the Colts tape, the Browns tape. Everywhere that he's been, he's bringing all his knowledge to college football. So we're running some really impressive schemes. And I think a lot of the BC fans are production. Their defense is already good.
I love that you opened up with, I'm not going to give away too much of what we're doing, but you're bringing in an OC who's got some NFL experience, who's been. Are we going to see a wide open Boston College this year? Are we going fun and gun, or you got you a healthy little mix in there?
We got a mix. I think you can do a lot of things, and part of why Coach Chud is so much fun is he has so much knowledge of different ways to do different things. And we're going to find what we're good at during camp, and we'll stick with that for the season for our identity, but we can do a whole lot.
We are talking with Emmett Morehead. He is the starting quarterback for the Boston College Eagles this year. Man, like I said, we've been talking, and I've been saying that I think this conference genuinely I think it already is, but has a chance to prove that this is the second best conference in college football this year. And I have said repeatedly, top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom. That I think there's a couple of teams in the Big Ten and the SEC that maybe just slightly outpace, but top to bottom, the most deep conference in football. You guys have the opportunity, I think, to kind of prove that coming off a 3-9 year. What is the pressure on you as a quarterback to come in and be the catalyst, to be the spark plug, to get that offense back to where you guys want it to be? I mean, do you feel that personally?
I have a huge responsibility, obviously, and the main thing that I'm focused on is finding completions. I found that when you kill the momentum, taking too many shots, taking too many risks, and turnovers as well, that's when things start to slow down too much for the offense, and sometimes the other offense gets some points on the board, and then you have to speed up and try and catch up to it. So really controlling the game is really important. they're going to drop into deep zones, checking the ball down, and just staying ahead of the sticks. Last year, I think we probably played in the third and long than any team that touched it, if I had to guess. And a lot of that was due to our run game. So I think our offensive line will fix that in and of itself this year. But yeah, it's a challenge, and it's a really fun challenge. To just find ways to get different people the ball as well. You know, I think we're too focused on that today. We have a lot of damage this year, so it's making sure we get all the pieces in order and in the right places.
I love it. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch you guys play this year. Emmett Moorhead, starting quarterback for Boston College here on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Man, good luck this year. Looking forward to seeing you out there, buddy. You got it. There you go. Emmett Moorhead joining us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Let's take a quick break. We're back after this. Rob Brown, Lonzo, and you. It is the Fan Upstate.
Hey, thanks, man.
Great stuff, buddy. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
great to meet you. Good luck this year, pal.
Keep throwing out the flow, man.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm committed now.
Ingles Market on the Fan Upstate.
Emmett just told me I'm not allowed to stop throwing the flow.
At Panthers training camp on Wednesday.
One of us. One of us.
I'll be right back, guys. Wait, hang on. Hang on. I'm going to put me on the break screen before I let my sarcastic face be broadcast. It's 40. It's 11:42 already. All right. It's over. We're done. Carolina coming in last in the division. Drafting CJ was a mistake.
I was muted and no one heard what I said. So.
Drafting Bryce was a mistake, guys. He got
CJ
picked off.
Henderson has just picked off Bryce Young in practice.
Was that interview with Emmett Moorhead, was that not the most football player interview of all time?
All right. I think you should save this for the air because I just had a conversation with someone else in the building about this. So, yes, they brought it up to me.
Okay, let's do it.
With nearly 20,000 job openings, Express Employment Professionals can help you take the next step in your career. Visit expresspros.com today.
From the Ingles Market Studio, The Fan.
Upstate. 97.7 FM Greenville. 97.1 FM Spartanburg.
Search The Fan Upstate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, shockingly enough, it is the final segment of the Rob Brown Show. Well, live anyway, from ACC Media Days here in Charlotte, North Carolina. We are wrapping up the broadcast here, and before we get to Twitter trending topics and the farewells and yada, 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 I am going to ask Lonzo. I asked Lonzo a question, and it gave me a very interesting response. That conversation with Emmett Moorhead, if you were the dude who texted the show earlier and said that we needed more football stuff, that was the most quarterback conversation I have heard in a very long time.
First of all, let me say the long hair don't care, attitude that people think you got long, you can't be that. That dude is. I was just having a conversation with the boss, who just happened to be in the restroom at the same time I did, and I kind of figured it was him. I was trying to get out of there because you don't want to talk to the boss, especially in the restroom. But
wait, you figured it was him as in he was behind a closed door?
Well, yes.
And the conversation happened that way?
No. It did not. It happened at the sink, but thank you for asking.
All right. Got weird for a second.
Yeah, no, not really. But he asked me who it was, and I told him, and he said that was a really good interview. And I was like, yeah. Here's what I said to him. After listening to Emmett Moorhead speak, I never want to open a mic and talk ever again.
Why?
Because that dude can talk full sentences, it just, I felt my lack of grammar. Every answer.
Here's what I'll say. Dude comes across.
It's like, man,
he's just a football.
I am so dumb.
No, I don't think that's the case. I think he's just very much, Alonzo, I think he's just, that was in his element, right? So here's how this works. For a lot of these guys, when they sit down, especially for the ones that are already seated when we come out of the break, right? So we're talking for a minute or two before we go on the air. The first thing I try to do is, I'm giving away all my insider secrets here. The first thing I try to do is I look for something that I can connect with these guys over, right? Like I'm looking for something that I can connect to them with, like Josh Fuga yesterday, who we didn't get a chance to play his interview today, but we will play it tomorrow on the show because it's just a fun one. When Fuga sat down and he put on his headset and he's like, hey bro, this is like putting on my gaming headset. I'm like, oh boom, I got a hook, right? So we just started talking about video games, and we were boys after that. When we sat down with MJ Devonshire yesterday, when he sat down and I had read the article about him kind of being, he's an undersized DB who people told it. I'm like, all right, man, like I get the premise behind being told you can't do something. Lonzo, how many times have we had that conversation? You want to get Lonzo and Rob to do something, tell them they can't, and it's all over. I find something to connect with, or at least try to, with everybody that I interview. When he came over, we were already on the air, but like as soon as he sat down, we talked about the hair, because dude has a pretty good head of hair. We talked about the hair, and then he just wanted to talk football. And don't get me wrong, you want that out of your QB, right? Like, don't you want the guy that's just He's just football. It's just football, right? He's like, I'm not going to tell you what we're doing, right? Which is great. I appreciate that. But he's like, our offensive line was this, and we had this many guys, and we had 2 defensive linemen, and we had this scheme, and this tactic, and this running back, and this, that, and the other. That dude just loves football, loves his football team, loves the game. And, like, I asked him, I'm like, is that pressure on you? And he's like, yeah, it's absolutely me. I'm a starting quarterback. Of course it's on me. That was just a quarterback with a headset on, Lonzo. That's all that was.
So, because we had some camera problems, I didn't get to see him too much. Was he as animated talking about it? I mean, facial expressions as he was coming across on the air, audio-wise?
I'm trying to think of who it was that he reminded me of, because he reminds me of somebody, but I don't know who it was, right? Like, he reminds me of another football player, I think an NFL guy, in the way that, like, legit, Lonzo, he sat down, first and foremost, wonderful posture, right? Like, the lower back was arched, the chest was out, the shoulders were back, the neck was, like I'm sitting here, like, looking at myself slouching in the camera like the piece of trash I am, and this guy's over here like freaking Superman with everything but the cape. Excellent posture, like good body awareness. I will say this, anytime somebody moved down our little row, somebody would move, he's like eyes immediately to him. Like he's breaking down who's open. It was incredible. That dude is just one of those cats that, like, there's not an off switch for him, right? Like, he's just a quarterback. A lot of these other guys, they want to talk about games or their NIL deals or their this or their, their friends back home or they're making their high school proud or what.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not at all. Not at all. And again, like, that's the fun part for me is kind of learning the personalities of these guys and trying to bring those personalities into interviews. But when I was talking with him, like, bro, he's a quarterback living a quarterback life and nothing else.
Rob, I think he was a sports guy.
No, he's a sports guy. Like, he gets, I think he gets the third one. Yeah, when he's going full rosters and tactics and breaking it down. And by the way, Lonzo, doing all of that, but without giving away anything, right? Like, they are the super secret, we're here for revenge team. Again, not a team that I think is going to threaten to win the conference, or a team that I look at and I'm like, maybe they got an upset in them, man. They got that. Emmett Morehead got that dog in him, Lonzo.
Well, at least you can look at him and know that he has the confidence to win. We'll see if he can actually do it on the field.
Yes, we will.
All right, it is time for Twitter Trending Topics, where I tell Rob what is trending, and he will tell us why. The first thing that's trending is Joey Votto.
Joey Votto. Uh-oh, did I miss a trade? Lonzo?
No. There's video out there of him doing an interview, and he's just really animated and just, yeah.
Okay, listen, I need you to do me a favor, and I need you to be very careful about putting baseball players in Twitter Trending Topics until August 2nd, okay? If you go with any baseball player between now and like 5 a.m. on the 1st of August, I'm gonna freak out.
Wow, he's actually suddenly getting nervous. Like
I was. Well, so here's the thing,
like Taylor Swift just walked into the room.
All right, so this is that would be interesting, right? Because the Reds are good. The Reds are in a playoff push, and again, I don't know. Atlanta's been very good the last 3 or 4 years at making trade deadline pushes and bringing in the right guy, but this is the first time that I'm like 1-9. The Braves lineup is good. Do you throw off chemistry if you make a move? Is it worth it? I'm like freaking out now.
This has been trending for a couple of days. So it's this video. I haven't actually listened to.
I just found it, and yeah. I am now less interested because of who he's talking to.
Okay, well, anyway, let's move on. The next person that's trending is Sean Payton.
All right.
He just did something.
I saw it. I'm a big fan of coach-on-coach beef. All right. I'm a big fan of coaches throwing the body blows at each other. Sean Payton showed up, did a presser as camp starts for the Denver Broncos, and he said last year was the worst coached NFL season of all time ever. Dude walked in and he straight up Rob Starked Nathaniel Hackett from last year. I mean, just took him down with the broadsword. He said, he got asked, and he said, I came in, I learned everything that the coaching staff did here last year, and we're doing the opposite of everything. We're just doing everything backwards from what they did last year. Sean could have showed up and just said nothing. He could have been like, what are you gonna do? We're a different football team. Nope. He top roped Macho Man Randy Savage, elbow dropped Nathaniel Hackett. If Nathaniel Hackett had a chance of rehabbing the image and finding his way back into a head coaching search, Sean Payton just Randy Orton punted it out of existence.
All right, and where's Hackett coaching now?
I believe he's with the Jets now, isn't he?
I believe he is. I don't have enough time to look up to see if the Jets actually play the Broncos. That could be a thing. It really could.
Let's see. Here's their schedule. I would love to see that.
Because
now I would love to see
Hackett
it.
is Aaron Rodgers' guy. And,
no, they are not playing each other this year.
All right, unless they see each other in the playoffs.
That's exactly right.
In
Hey,
the playoffs.
dude, look. Why did you bring Sean Payton to Denver? To rehab Russell Wilson. Now, I have been making the argument. Made the argument on BetMGM tonight, the other night. My argument is, Lonzo, Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll fell apart. And I think it's because, and I've said this a number of times, Pete Carroll put himself back into that college football mentality, right? Like, it's all me. And that's not how the NFL works. So Russell Wilson, a guy who also makes it about him, wasn't going to work there anymore. He goes to Denver. He's there for Denver in 1 year underneath the second worst NFL coach of all time, Nathaniel Hackett, who was outpaced by like 0.0001%, because the difference between him and Urban Meyer is that Urban Meyer is also a bad person and a bad coach. Anyway, he goes to Denver. He's got the worst coach in the history of the NFL. If anybody is going to get the best back out of Russell Wilson, it's Sean Payton. Look out. Denver was a wild card spot this year. That's it for us, ladies and gentlemen. We will have those interviews with Dabo Swinney and Kate Klubnik for you tomorrow on the show. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. I'm Rob Brown. Lonzo's back in the studio. I'm back in studio tomorrow on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
Countdown to the college football season has begun. This is live coverage from the ACC.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank y'all for watching. We will see you back here tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.